Hi everyone, it's Norman Kochnick here for Eyes on Cricket with Norman Kochnick. As per usual, I'm trying to be on at this time of the day. Look, there are a few issues. My mother went back in the hospital again. Everything's okay, but she had another somewhat of a fall, so I had to bring her in the hospital. But it was all good. So I've been joined here by, how are you, Manston boy?
Hi,
Richard, Reg, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, my friend. How's your mum? I just missed the start of the show.
I just started now. That's okay. Look, she is close to 90 years of age, so I'll say that up front. She unfortunately had another fall when I wasn't there and hit her head badly on the side of the door. Her hip had some significant damage, but not broke or anything. But she's okay. She's now going to be out tomorrow, so I've been spending a lot of my time. Hence why, everyone, I haven't been on air for the last couple of days. I've had a bit of a bother, but I have actually been able to sneak in a couple of positive things. Ash Barty has won the semi-final of the Wimbledon.
Fantastic.
She's now playing the final.
Let me ask you, Norman. They mentioned quickly she left tennis to become a professional cricketer. Is that right?
That's correct. She was actually playing in the Women's Big Bash, and she was playing sensationally. She was actually borderline in the Australian
squad. She's a big girl. She's a big girl, isn't she?
Well, she can also apparently play a bit of rugby, and anything she touches, she does well at. And to be number one in the world in tennis as well is phenomenal.
There's not many people who cross the format, especially now. Back in the old days, there were a few. I'm sure there was a guy called C.B. Fry for England who played football for England, cricket for England, snooker, had 100 breaking snooker, and was just an all-round genius at anything he tried. But these days, it's rare, isn't it? Rare to do that.
Extremely rare. Where's Munchie? I haven't actually sent him the link. Is he floating around? Send him the link and say if he just...
I haven't spoken to Munchie, but you've got to bear in mind it is lunchtime, and that takes a long time for Munchie, you know.
Yeah, no, but Ash Barty, incredible. She's got this I'm going to win when it counts attitude, and it's an incredible record. 41 years ago, a lady by the name of Yvonne Goolagong,
Yvonne Crawley, yeah.
So I would Munchie's, oh no, oh ho ho ho. What's Munchie just said? Join Munchie. Can you send him the link? Are you able to send him the link?
I can't. Norman, technology. You're great at this, but for an idiot,
I'm just going to forward it to him because Munchie, can you join me on Facebook? Because every time I try and join you on Facebook, I've got too many Facebook followers, so you have to jump on now. Munchie, if you want to get on, I'm going to send you the link, Munchie, but I would like you to also join. I'm just checking his name. It's Marcus. Yeah, I'm sending it to you now. So Marcus, send me or accept my Facebook invite, guys. I'm just checking that's the case. So anyway, so
he just put a message on the messaging here. You can do a few minutes. So we're going to get
that's a few minutes is better than nothing.
Screen, a few minutes with Munchie, an extra wide screen as usual.
So what's happening in Sri Lanka? Their so-called video analysis guy, who I actually know, who's a personal friend of mine, went positive, and they're looking at even the Sri Lankan squad having to be dropped out, which would be hilarious because they're going to put in some. Maybe that might bring Arjun Aranzunga back, perhaps. Seeing he's been mouthing off, let's see how good he is at 50, 57, 58 years of age. Let's look back at.
Well, we're lucky enough to have Kumar Sangakkara over in the UK. I think he's pretty much full-time over here because he's MCC president or whatever. And what a fantastic man, by the way. He talks brilliantly. He's intelligent, and you think he could probably pick up a bat and go and play again.
He looks extremely fit. He
does, and he's
very intellectual fellow. He and Mahala are great together.
Yeah, he was a great player. Kumar, he scored runs all around the world. Fantastic.
Oh, stylish as ever. Amazing player. So, okay, so Ash Barty's in the final against someone I can't so ranked 8th. She should win.
Yeah.
So it's the first time in 41 years that someone's won from Australia, women's, that is. But you mentioned about players that play multiple sports. Elise Perry, hockey, cricket. Apparently, he's a really good swimmer as well. She could probably do it at multiple sports. In fact, she represented soccer, hockey, and cricket for Australia. She's
Who's
quite
the
amazing.
little opening bat you've got for Australian women? Healy, Tim Healy's daughter? Is it?
Alyssa Healy, yeah.
Alyssa Healy. She could probably be a boxer, couldn't she? I've seen her.
Yeah, she's as tough as well. She's married to Mitchell Starr. Hello, Munch. Sorry about the last minute nature.
Good afternoon, everyone.
What's the background today?
The background is actually our local church. It's St Martin's Church.
Right.
So it's a beautiful church, just overlooks a place called Romney Marsh in Kent. Romney Marsh is actually an old reclaimed land, or it's been reclaimed for hundreds of years, but it's a beautiful church up on the old sea cliffs. And obviously I was out walking one afternoon. Yes, Richard, actually walking, exercise. Yeah, my knees could cope. And just a beautiful sunny day. The sheep were in the fields. Just thought I'd take the photograph. So.
Very, very good.
Romney Marsh famous, Norman, because it's the setting for Great Expectations by Charles Dickens.
There you go.
Very famous part of the world in our country.
Also said this. So sorry, Norm. Was also said it's a land where men and sheep are worried. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, hello. That sounds like a New Zealander from there's certain parts of New Zealand which they say something very similar, which I won't go down that track because we.
I know. We'll leave it there.
I think New Zealanders are known for it. Put it that way. No,
we've got quite a lot to talk about today, Norman, haven't we?
We have a huge amount to talk about. Firstly, I mean, England versus Pakistan. Look. I'm sorry. What on earth are England doing? They've got two of the best. Well, certainly one. Why is Darwood Milan not in all formats in the England side, almost second or third player selected? I'm sorry. That man should be in that England side. They're missing out on having him in there. And Zach Crawley did very well as well.
He did, yeah. And actually, you've got to give Zach Crawley a lot of due because he was called out of the game against Lancashire where Jimmy got his 1000th wicket and the ball was hooping. It was, I don't know if people have seen the footage, but try and see the video footage of Jimmy Anderson. I think it was 6 for 8 was his spell. And you've got experienced batsmen that are used to county conditions. They just could not lay the bat on the ball that Jimmy was bowling, swinging all over the place. And so Zach Crawley's come from a duck there straight down to play white ball cricket, and then he was a bit scratchy early on, but produced a great score. And I agree with you. I don't know, Milan just shows you that he's solid early on, and then starts scoring. Now we don't know.
But hang on a minute.
Sorry.
He's number one T20 player in the world. I'm sorry.
It's different ball though. Kookaburra.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, I don't understand that. If you're ranked anywhere in the top 10, you should be in your national side.
Perhaps he may get a chance now. Yeah, I think what's happening now, you're seeing COVID numbers in the country go up. We've already got a couple of hospitals in the country that are now black flagged, which meaning that they are completely full. They can't take anyone else. Now, of course, what you're seeing is because of the vaccinations, not as many people are obviously passing away, which is great to see, but people are still being infected. So if problems we're getting with the bubble, Sri Lanka, England, etc., you may get more players coming in that are clear of the virus. So we'll see what happens, but you're right. Yeah, he's proved himself in the white ball cricket, Norman. I completely agree with you. Yeah.
But really, all platforms he should be on. He's such a good player. He's got the temperament of a player of any of the platforms. Another thing about COVID now, we've been incredibly good for 6 to 12 months. We've had zero most cases in Sydney. Now we're getting 40 a day. But it's not just 40 a day, which doesn't sound like a big number, but we've got people in Prince of Wales at Randwick, which is very close to me. For the first time in the whole period of COVID, we now have cases which are in ICU and are going on ventilators, which is a shock to us, considering we haven't been anywhere near that. We've got only, I think it's between 5 and 9% vaccinated in Australia. We are in a big mess because even though we've done really well, we could suddenly blow out really badly.
I think a lot of people forget that there is a longer incubation period for this virus. It's like 10 days, 2 weeks. So you may be in contact with someone who's got the virus now, and then you're happily going on your merry way for, say, a week. and then you may get the contact tracing app to say, oh, you've been near someone that's got the virus, but in that week, how many other people have you potentially passed the virus on to? And this is what I'm really worried about with the Euros in England. So you had 60-odd thousand at Wembley on a couple of nights ago, and a lot of people there, no masks, no social distancing. Are we going to see numbers escalating? Now, it was a great result for England, very happy about it, but my concern is, of course, the government's trying to release the country. They call Freedom Day, the 19th of July, but I think we still need to be under control, because even our cricket teams and the sportsmen, Sri Lanka as well, people are in these secure environments and still catching the virus. So we've got to be very careful.
Well, I just don't understand. You wouldn't allow a full crowd, but put masks on, for God's sake, and take precautions. Just, I mean, wouldn't that at least help? Have a mask on. I know it's not.
I don't know. I don't. Yeah, yes. It's. I'll quite happily stay with my virtual backgrounds in the room here, so it's keeping safe that way. Yeah, but no, it was an interesting game yesterday. Just a quick one. Batting lineup was quite close to how I predicted. Bowlers not too bad. Yeah, I've got to get that in, Reg. But people were saying, oh, England actually hammered Pakistan, but they're a strange team. They're very much an enigma, where they can have a really bad result yesterday and then come back and have a storming result in the future. So we'll see what happens. I don't think one game casts any doubt on the capabilities of that team. Certainly got some good bowlers there. Harris Ralph can throw that down at a good old lick.
Harris Ralph, I mentioned, just stop you on Harris Ralph. I think I may have told Reggie about this. Harris Ralph played. Do you know the story of Harris Ralph?
Well, he suddenly came in, was playing in the BBL, and no one had really heard of him.
That.
Was he?
There was Lahore Clunders as a team that I'm very close to. They come very often to Sydney, and I know the management people and all of the players. What they did is they had this social media call out in the northern part of Pakistan for players to come out of the woodwork, out of the Himalayas, come down to a stadium. And we'll go through door A, which is keepers, door B, bowlers, door C, batsmen. They came out of nowhere, not even properly clothed, mostly not good shoes. Some had never held an actual physical cricket ball before in their life. So they've gone through these doors. They've given Harris Ralph, he only ever bowled with a tape ball from the woods, right? They gave him a real cricket ball. He bowled, they had a gun on him. His first delivery with a real cricket ball with rough clothing, 150 Ks. They've gone, oh my God. Then he went on. He was a part of the squad that came to Sydney, and I think they were playing against some of the BBL sides as a team. And he befriended some people there, and including through me, they decided to keep him in Sydney when the Lahore Clunders went home. So they went home. He hadn't made the side. He and three other players stayed back and played at grade cricket in Sydney. He ended up playing for the SCG11 with me. And he was in my team. It was really funny. So I knew him from that. This was about 4 years ago. Then all of a sudden, I mean, he's obviously a great bowler, but we thought, he's raw and everything. Bang, he's played now a number of games for Pakistan, and he's bowling. And he's the most humble kid. And I'm so blessed to have had that experience with the guy. He was literally found from nowhere.
Yeah, because I think it was a couple of years ago I was watching the BBL and it came up with Harris. I thought, who's this? The next thing you know, you saw the speed gun coming up on the scoreboard. Like, wow, yeah. Where's he suddenly come from? So it's a great story, Norman.
Well, it's literally true. And he was, and we had local Pakistani people in the association here in Sydney threw him around to various BBL franchises to see if he would stick. They had the BBL franchises are going, who's this guy? And they're letting loose, like, oh my God. And then he got basically thrown like a street kid into play, literally like that. And he can't be denied. The guy's amazing. And then he took all those wickets in the BBL. Now he's gone from there, T20 ODI. He'll be in the test team before too long. So he didn't bowl that well last night, though. But anyway, yeah, so that's a great story.
But the thing is, fast bowling is a natural thing. Yeah, you can make yourself a good bowler, but someone bowling with genuine pace, no, that's you're born with that. Yeah,
absolutely. Just quickly, the South Sydney Rabbitohs won today. They won 46-18. They're third in the comp. I'm very happy. So I might get one of the guys from the club to come on.
Bunnies.
No, I'm resisting any temptation to take the mickey.
Don't you start with Chris. Don't you give me that bloody bunnies rubbish. Rabbitohs. They kill rabbits. All right. So, okay. So we've got Australia.
We'll have to send you the Chaz and Dave link. Sorry. Yeah.
Well, wasn't it funny? Because Chris had a bloody rabbit in his cricket net the other day. That was hilarious.
Norman, I never cease to wonder sometimes about some of the comments that we get. And comment here, and I'm going to bet I'm on the same page of Munchie here. Zach Crawley's game is more suited to one-day cricket than Test cricket. What a load of old nonsense! He is absolutely, his game is all set up to play Test cricket. His technique and everything. He hasn't done well in Test cricket this year, but all of his setup is Test. He did all right in the one days because if you're a good player, you can play both. But generally speaking, he's going to be a Test player.
Well, I mean, he plays. He's a great Test player potentially. I'm still waiting for what happens in Australia. I think he'll go well there. I think they're going to have to select him for Australia and Milan and even James Vince. I don't know the three of them.
I don't think Vince will go.
Yeah, who would you pick Vince ahead of?
Well, look, I know you rate Ollie Pope, but I'm not sold on him at the moment. At the moment, I'm not sold on him. He doesn't really done an outstanding thing yet, has he? Well, it's not that I've seen recently, too.
He had a brilliant early season. Yeah, hundreds, double hundreds. So let's see how he cracks on against India. But as we were saying a few days ago, this series against Pakistan, I know it's white ball, but it gives those players on the fringe of the squads an opportunity to prove themselves. And so we'll see what happens. I still think Ollie Pope, he's a mini me of Ian Bell, although both of them are very mini. But he's a very, I don't think I've seen a better cover drive since Ian Bell. And when he gets in there.
I haven't seen it at Test level. I'm sorry, and that's my concern. Yeah. And I'm talking about Test level. I'll just go back, just my 2 cents worth in. I think for Australia, it's way down the track. Rory Burns, Zach Crawley, Darwin Milan. They're my top three.
Yeah, I agree. I think that'll happen.
That should be my top three.
Root at 4, Stokes at 5, Pope at 6, Butler, I imagine, will keep in at 7, and then you got your bowlers. I think that's probably the best we can hope for at the moment.
Because if Crawley and Milan, they look like they've got a great team, a great batting, batsmanship together.
Well, there's one game.
That's what impressed me.
I've got a good stat on Crawley here, guys. I saw this morning. Zach Crawley has scored 378 runs in 3 innings against Pakistan in all formats, compared to 384 in 22 innings against all other international opponents. So 378 to 384 in 3 innings against Pakistan, against 22 innings against everybody else. I think he likes the Pakistan bowling attack.
Okay, so all right. So just, I know because of Munchie's short time, we've got Australia versus Pakistan, Ash Barty, South winning the World Cup, of course, which is not World Cup. Sorry,
European Championships.
European Championships. Sorry, I keep calling that. That's mega. When's the game again?
Sunday night.
So not your time.
Yeah. So So it's 8:00 Sunday night. So we've still got a couple of days of the English media being ultra jingoistic and hyperbole going through the roof. It's ridiculous. Yeah.
Do you want to can we do a 3-way show? Oh, I might try and get some other Englishmen like Monty. I'll see whether he's available. Probably won't be, but we'll get it. You want to do a soccer show, a football show?
A football show, yes, because we kick the ball. Yes, yeah. I have this argument with my American friends.
Kick the ball, rugby union kick the ball, Aussie rules kick the ball. So
I'll just tell you the story. In March 2000, I went to work in Philadelphia for a couple of years, hence the photograph from the Cricket Festival. And it was in March, and it was coming up that weekend. It was a big Chelsea versus Arsenal football match. So I said to one of the guys in the office, where can I watch football, please? And they looked at me and said, where can I watch football, please? He said, football season's finished. I said, no, it's not. It doesn't finish until May. He looked at me and said, no, football season finished in January, Super Bowl. I said, oh, you mean the game that you throw and run around, whereas opposed to the game that we play where we kick the ball? And he looked at me and he just, okay, yeah, no, it's just an English pub in Philadelphia, which I found, but it was just how I find it interesting. It's when you talk to people that obviously play rugby, etc., and they'll still refer to it as football, yet it's picking the ball and running with it.
What's wrong with soccer? What's wrong with calling it soccer?
There is a derivation of the word soccer. I think what gets me more is probably the Americans pronounce it soccer, but I'm a purist, so it's football to me. But anyway, we are digressing. Right. This is cricket, Norman, and probably Sunday's not a good idea because I've already got lots of beers chilling at the moment.
So we'll think about it. We'll work it out. Post match, if you win, maybe you don't want to have it if you lose.
Yeah.
Okay. Now this is a comment about Siraj and Ishant Sharma. Going back to India for a moment. Look, they've got to give Siraj the first a Guernsey in the first test against England. They have to.
Why have they got to do that?
Well, he to me is the most informed bowler England have got that's bowling pace.
How's he informed? He hasn't played.
Well, he can only judge off his last performance, last number of performances, both in Australia and in India. He's bowled very well.
Sharma, is Sharma not fit then? Because if he's fit, he'll play, won't he?
So you think they won't change the lineup whatsoever, bowling-wise, for the first test?
No, I think they'll stay the same.
I think my concern on this, and I think people have addressed this before in the chats, is the 9, 10, 11. Now, in the World Test Championships, 9, 10, and 11 for New Zealand got runs. 9, 10, 11 for India didn't, because 9, 10, and 11 were effectively 3 number 11s. Now, if you're saying that Shami, Ishant, Bumrah and Siraj are all of a similar vein bowling, then should India be looking to pick the best batsman out of that group to strengthen the lower order batting lineup?
Well, I mean, Siraj, that's a hard one because I don't think there's much of a difference between Siraj or Ishant when it comes to batting. They're both pretty bloody ordinary. So I don't know whether it's a batting situation at all. I think it's more, how can I put it? It's more of a, it's a hard one. When you go on that track, it makes it very difficult to argue anything against the current bowling line because other bowlers don't add any more value with their batting. Unless you bring in a Shardul Thakur, who is certainly a good bat, proven in Australia, got 60 on his first match. So, yeah, it's a hard one.
But Thakur doesn't really have the pace of the others, though, does he? No, he doesn't. Because I remember, or can't remember which tour, but Praveen Kumar came over, and that ball was just booming all over the place, but it wasn't really at a pace that troubled the batsman. No. Whereas I like Shami because he got that little skid and does have a little bit of a way swing in there, and Ishant on his day as well. It's just the concern that I've got is you've got some great bowlers in there with Ishant, Shami, Bumrah, who on their day can get anyone out. It's just that gives them that weakness. So really, after Jadeja, really when you got down that level, you think, great, if we can get these guys up for less than 20 runs. Whereas New Zealand in the past, in the World Championship, and England, sometimes that tail has wagged. And if you can get 30, 40, 50 runs out of those last 3 wickets, that's a big difference.
Yeah, it's true. It's just that Bumrah's he needs to get his act together because he didn't bowl well at all in the World Test Championship.
Yeah, Norman, he's a great bowler. I think Bumrah's real quality. They've just got to pitch it up a bit more. They're a bit short of a length. Typical international length they bowled, but in England, if it's doing a bit, you've just got to get that fuller. That's what Chris Broad has done in the later part of his career. That's made him a better bowler. He's got it a yard fuller. You might get driven for 4, but you've also got much more chance over here of getting it nicking off. And that's what they need to do. We have got some stupid comments here. Shy Manu, he comes out with some absolute nonsense.
What did he say?
Yeah, everyone's entitled to their opinions, Rich.
Apparently, sorry, so I shouldn't abuse people, Marcus, I'm sorry. One is saying that Hamed hasn't been capped, youngest player not to be capped. And there's a conspiracy theory against Hamid and Joe Clark. There's complete nonsense. Hamid has been capped. He's played Test cricket, so he's been capped. So that's nonsense. There's no conspiracy theory. Hamid lost his county contract, Marcus, didn't he? Because he was playing so poorly for Lancashire.
I don't know if he lost the contract, but I know he got dropped.
Definitely got.
But he's certainly come back. But of course, you look at the county level of players, and there's only a few slots to get into. And I would say when you look at the people that have been selected, who at any one time is better than, say, Hamid. I know he was on the fringe of the squad for the New Zealand game, and Joe Clark. You've got to trust the selectors at times. So, sorry, guys, I'm being summoned now, so I'm going to to jump off. I've got a meeting in a couple of minutes. Sorry, guys. Catch you soon.
Right. Come back later if we're still on. If you're up to it.
Okay, bye.
2 years ago, Hamid was averaging 9, I think, in county championship cricket for Lancashire. 9. He went into their second 11, and I'm pretty sure he got 0 runs at second 11 cricket as well. And they had to drop him, and he's gone away, and he's a good young cricketer, but he obviously had some issues. and he changed county. I think he's at Nottingham. I think he's gone to Notts, hasn't he? And this year is the first year he's shown any sort of form at all. And the minute he's shown a bit of form, he's been brought back into the England fold.
Yeah, there's something rather annoying by all that sort of toing and froing. I don't appreciate that at all. I think it's rather dangerous when they do things like that. To be honest, when you treat a player like a yo-yo and in and out, you've got to let them pick and stick. I think if you talk to Neil Harvey now, I think one of the best selectors Australia's ever had. To be honest,
wasn't a bad player either, was he?
Well, I mean, he was a great player as well, but he was primarily responsible for the 1970s era in terms of the way Australia picked teams. And he made it very clear that he picked a player and they stuck in that team until they gave it a red-hot go, and he didn't drop them mid-series. If they were picked at the beginning of the series, they played the whole series. There was no mid-series drop, nothing like that, unless it was a misdemeanor, but that was extreme. Like Greg Chappell had something like, I don't know, it might have been 7, 8, 9, 10 ducks in a row. Now, current era, he would have been dropped, wouldn't he? But in that time frame, he wasn't. So the reality is there's a lot behind that discussion. And if you're going to pick a team, virtually the team, unless there's a condition change where you need more spinners or what have you, you need to pick especially the batting order. The batting order needs to stay for the whole series, unless there's an injury. Would you agree?
No, I don't think. No, I don't think.
Gil's got a wonderful looking mask on there. Are you spray painting?
Yeah, because the mask is on because of the regulations. If you're traveling in a car, you have to wear a mask because of the COVID situation. So that's
right.
how
We
it
can
is.
still hear you loud and clear. Thanks for joining us. We're in the middle of a conversation about picking a team for a series and keeping the batting order for the series as long as the conditions are the same, relatively the same. Now, Reggie, Richard, what did you say? You said no. Why no?
I don't think they will. I don't think any side will necessarily keep the same batting lineup for an entire series if they're not performing. I mean, there's a difference between being slightly out of form and you can battle through it and looking poor. I remember Gary Ballance a couple of years, or whenever it was, 4 or 5 years ago against Australia, was absolutely awful against probably Stark, I think, and they were sorting him out every time, and he had to be dropped. It just there's no point keeping him in the side. And I think.
But hang on a minute. I'll just take you back to the best eras of cricket in terms of a team that won for many games in a row. Australia, on a number of occasions, have kept the same side while they're playing well, even when players were out of form. Okay, West Indies did the same. England did the same. England, even back in the 70s when Lilly and Thompson went through them, they still stuck to a certain batting order. Now, I reckon if you go back statistically, you'll find that's the case. Even India, when they had, Laxman Dravid, they kept that side together. I don't know. If you're going to select a person to play for your country for a Test series, the golden rule should be to keep them the series the whole time. Even if they fail early on, you've got to give them the opportunity to settle in.
I don't disagree completely. I think that's why I think Pope will play. We were talking about Pope, and you were saying you're not 100% sure. I think they'll keep Pope in. I think that they'll look at it, and if they think it's not good, bear in mind that Burns, Sibley, and Crawley have had the Test series in the winter, and they've had the series against New Zealand as well, and they've got to think of Australia coming up. I think Milan will play. I really do. I
reckon that when Darwin Milan gets in the England side, he will be a mainstay batsman.
I hope so. I hope so. I'm looking at the messages. Shay Manu's winds me up. It doesn't. It's not about averages. I agree, but there's no way that Hasib Hamid has been anything but treated really well by England. I think if he's not scoring any runs, he can't play. He can't be picked if he's not scoring any runs. And the minute he's got back into a few runs in county cricket, they've drafted him back into the setup. I think they've done very well. I think they like him. I think they think he's a good player. but he's not going to play this summer unless something disastrous happens at the top of the order. I can't see Burns not batting all summer and going. He's a good player, Rory Burns. I think Sibley's struggling. I think I would open with Crawley and have Malan at 3. That's how I would do the side. And I would not drop Bumrah, and I would not drop Ishant Sharma. There you go.
And that's almost falling back into my thoughts, actually, what you're saying, other than Siraj.
Well, I like Siraj. I just don't see how they can get him in. If they play 4 frontline seamers, but therefore dropping Jadeja or Ashwin and balance their side that way, I can't see them doing that either, because their tail would be extremely long then, and I think that you're taking a risk to play four non-batters towards the bottom end of your order. That's going back to the Malali, Tufnell, crikey, Caddick era of English cricket, where we had bunnies. Crikey, it was rubbish, our batting order. Gil, you don't think they're going to drop Sharma, do you? He's too good.
No, they won't. They won't drop him. I don't.
It's not a matter of
the way
dropping
I
him. It's
see
not a
it,
matter of dropping him.
I don't see any. I don't think any fast bowler will play all 5 tests. I think they'll probably play the same team that played the final. Maybe if Gill's injured, he'll get replaced by Mayank. But I think India will most probably play the same bowling lineup that they did in the WTC final, and then they'll rotate the pacers, because if they plan to play all 5 or any player all 5 test matches, then it's going to be hard, because there will be IPL followed by the test series, then there would be the World T20. So I definitely don't see the likes of Bumrah and Shami playing all 5 test matches. Ishant Sharma might, because he's not a part of the white ball setup, but there is no way that Bumrah or Shami play all 5 test matches. I don't see that.
I agree. They'll rotate. England will do the same, Gil. I think England will rotate it as well.
So, okay, let's just take a step back for a moment. Now, we've talked about Australia and Pakistan a bit, and we can talk about that more later, because the next game is tomorrow, isn't it? Correct?
Australia playing tomorrow, yes, I think they are.
No, I'm talking about
England.
Talking about England versus
Pakistan is at Lord's, full house, no restrictions at Lord's tomorrow in the rain. Rain's forecast.
Okay, we've got that. We've got obviously coming up on the 13th. Which is the first of the Sri Lanka India matches. Now, if Sri Lanka's had their so-called stats guy, who basically is amongst the players intimately, he's someone I know. If he's come down with it, they're going to be in danger of having to sideline the whole side. That might actually make them. They may force them to bring back Naroshan Dikwella and Castle Mendes, may be forced to be back in the side, which will be interesting. I mean, Angela Matthews has pull-up stumps as well, which is interesting, because that might force the hand and bring Dinesh Chandimal back. You just don't know. And it could actually be a bizarre thing for Sri Lanka, because if they have to bring back some of those players that have been taken out due to more so political reasons than anything else, you might see Sri Lanka return to some of their better players. It might even force Angela Matthews to come out of retirement kind of almost immediately, because they lose the whole Sri Lankan side.
And Hirath.
Angela Matthews hasn't really officially retired yet. He's not retired yet. He's refused a contract, but he's not necessarily retired yet.
Who's that? Who did you say?
Angelo Matthews.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. But it
I'm
doesn't
saying
look like
that.
it's an issue with. I know what's going on. Almost every, like, you go through Sangakkara, Jayawarde, they were disgruntled with the presidency, the management, the actual board. They went on to Angela Matthews, Dinesh Chandimal, even to Muth Karunaratne. They've all had issues with the board. Every time one of these players get picked, for some reason, if they don't conform to what the board wants, they won't get picked, despite being the best player for the position. Did I get my point? If they're made captain, well, they're only made captain if they're going to make be made Sri Lankan captain. They've got to conform to what the actual board tells them to do, which is wrong. Does that make sense? The board basically is the captain. You're just a dummy to be the captain.
Yeah,
Gil,
it makes a lot of sense, and that is, yeah, I completely agree with you. It makes a lot of sense, and I think that is the only reason why Sri Lankan cricket is struggling. Because I just read up some stat today that between uh, 99 to 2004 to 2007, Sri Lanka used to win 60 or 70% of the ODIs that would held in their country. Because if Sri Lanka used to bat first, you would know that they'll eventually end up winning the game, because you'd have the likes of Chamindavas and Muralidharan bowling, and they wouldn't let you score at all. And then they got a few other bowlers in the likes of Parvez Maroof, Dilara Fernando. There was Kulasekara, there was Malinga. There was a lot of consistency in the team. But
It does come down to the
forget
captains.
changing teams. Yeah, they change captain. They change captain every 2 months. Post Since 2017, Sri Lanka have had 10 captains. 10 captains in the last 3 years. How do you build a team? It's impossible to do that.
Well, again, I'm fully aware of what happens with these people. I know how quickly they're disgruntled, and almost every captain who wants to lead as captain and as coach, they want to be able to make the decisions. They're in charge of the team. Well, they're never allowed to be that free. If they don't perform, there's put that person, take that person out, put this person in, take that person out. Oh, I've got someone who I'm favouring. Jayasuri is now a minister of blood. All that crap went on consistently right throughout all the periods. Almost all the periods that's happened. It's constant factions, whatever the word is. It's been despicable. And I know firsthand, every single player I've talked about has voiced those issues, and they give up. Despite being the best player, also the best captain, the best leader, they're not leading. They're leaderless because of that. And it comes down to someone who conforms that goes in, and that's wrong. Anyway, all right. Just the person who jumped on quickly there, waiting for her to come back on, is Janatul Shamona, who was the Bangladesh international women's player who, at the age of 16, played for a country. She must be playing around trying to get on. She's a great person, very articulate, and is now 21, and still she's killing it here in Sydney. If she was Australian, she'd probably play for the Australian side. She's that good. She certainly is that good. All right, now. So again, Sri Lanka against India, I'm pulling my hair out because India should and will absolutely annihilate Sri Lanka at home. The conditions will suit India. Their playing strength is at its peak. They've got everybody firing. They're ready to go. They're playing for World Cup spots. Sri Lanka haven't got a clue what's going on. And if this bubble thing is disgraced, it'll be a mess. All right. What else did you want to talk about? Richard, did you have something else you want to talk about? What was burning in your thoughts?
Well, because you mentioned the Bangladesh, I've just got the score sheet up here yesterday. The last 2 wickets put on 200 and something, didn't they?
Yeah.
They were 8 for 270 and then 468 all out. So it's 200 for the last 2 wickets. That doesn't happen very often.
And Zimbabwe went the other way around. Zimbabwe were 1 for almost 200, and now they're 5 for 245.
Yeah, Muhammadullah got 150 red, and number 10 got 75. Well done to him. That's fantastic. Yeah.
It is. It is quite incredible.
Absolutely.
And also Brendan Taylor.
They actually just fell short of Norman. They actually just fell short of making a record. Had they completed a 200-run partnership, they would have actually created a record. But they fell short of it because Taskin Ahmed got out on the last ball of the day.
Okay, it's 191 they put on by the look of it. 9 short, 191, 270 to 461. So,
Taskin Ahmed, I know Taskin Ahmed quite well. He's a young bowler. He's an outstanding fast bowler, but went wayward there for a while, but he can also bat. So where he's batting in the order doesn't reflect his position.
Oh, okay, number 10. Yeah.
Actually, Tuscan Ahmed, who's now married, fancied Shripali at one stage. But that didn't happen. So, all right, that's a bit of goss for you. But some of these Bangladeshi batsmen, individually, they are like Monimul Haq, Mustaf Rahim, Shakib Al Hussain, we know, Lytton Dus, who can also open. They are batting quality. I mean, they really are. They're Tamim Iqbal's not there, but they have some great batters on that side. I never can understand why they don't actually do exceptionally well. It's just a real pity. They seem to have oodles of talent. It's just something goes wrong. So that's an interesting match. I'm glad Zimbabwe, well, they not so much in it now, they've fallen away, but they certainly started well. They had a great start. And Brendan Taylor, he's been around for donkey's years.
Yeah, he's coming towards 36 years old. But he's
38, I think he is.
No, I looked this morning, funny enough, Norman, because I like to do my prep before I come on with you, as you know.
Yeah. It's right. He's almost 36. You're right.
Almost 36, but you're right. He seems to have been around forever, doesn't he? He's a bit like me and you, Norman.
Yeah. It's funny how 36 is old. It's not really, but it is for quickness.
What I was
so Australia play against the West Indies coming up. I find that interesting because I think there's a few Australian players emerging now that are starting to show their wares, namely Josh Philippe. I actually think he will keep for the national test side prior to Karen. My little bet. I think
that's a big call. That is.
Well, Alex Carey has been in and around it, but he's just. I think he might stay in the short form, but it won't be the long form. I think you'll find that Josh Philippe's going to be more value. I think there's an element of that going on as well. But Justin Langer came out and he's pumped up because he's very happy. I'm very impressed with the fact that he's given Dan Christian a go. It's very much against the grain for Australia to suddenly select someone 38 in the national side, but he's got the numbers.
Have they taken a fairly full strength side out, Australia, for these one days?
Well, they got Mitchell Marsh there, and he certainly wouldn't be called a first choice anymore.
But Hazelwood, Stark.
I think there's a bit of a divide going on. You'll find that they'll probably come back to the World Cup, yes. But generally, I think there's an element of test and one day groups starting to emerge. And I think that's a fair call. I'm beginning to really think that the success of Australia is banked on us having a pure test side. I really do. I think Mitchell Stark and Hazel, despite being good enough to play in short form, might find themselves having to choose one or the other.
Protect them a little bit, which is what they did with Broad and Anderson. I
think it'll be the same.
2 years extra. The reason I asked, I keep talking about Shai Manu's comment. I don't mean to ignore everyone else. He's asked for predictions for the Aussie series against the West Indies over 50s. And I'm not sure the Aussie squad that they're taking over there. It's a good squad they're taking, yeah?
Well, you can't call it the best squad ever. No. You'd argue that Warner would have been there. You would argue that perhaps,
So Warner's rested. Warner rested and Labuschagne rested. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. They've been both rested plus, Warner's IPL driven still. And I think that I don't know what's happening with the IPL, but I think Warner wants to impress upon the IPL as well as potential World Cup, and therefore can't do it all.
Yeah. Okay.
And Warner's, he's out there training a lot. He and his wife are running around the neighbourhood. I see them all the time. They're out there jogging crazily in COVID, so they're keeping fit. But it's not the all-time best short-form team that's over there, no. But I'm glad they got Dan Christian. I'm glad they got Moses Enriques. Those two players are quality. And
I've got the cricket info here. Now, this may be wrong, but they've got 5 one-dayers. They're 5 2020s. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're all playing in St Lucia.
Yeah.
So it's all at St Lucia. I assume that's for the bio bubble or whatever they need to do.
Yeah.
Now that pitch is a little bit slower and lower than a traditional Windies. Because I've been watching a little bit from it, and they've been playing their games there, and that would suit the sort of your Dan Christians, I think, and your Moses.
And Moses.
because they're a bit more. Well, I was going to say dibby dobby, but that's very rude. That's not quite what I mean. But you get what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
You know, and in answer to that, I think Australia will win. I think the West Indies are a poor outfit at the moment.
It's an interesting one. I don't know whether you can say conclusively that Australia are going to win. I don't know whether it's that conclusive.
It's my opinion, Norman. I think they'll win.
No, that's fair enough.
I like
Australia.
This generally as a one-day side. I mean, they're good. I mean, they got hammered by England in the World Cup, which was great. In the World Cup semi, which was extremely pleasing. But I'm sure that hurt, Norman. Sorry, didn't mean to upset you.
I'm not really able to be hurt by Australia. I'm disappointed with them all round, and I'm very much thinking they're going through a down cycle. They're going to have to go through a few years of pain still.
I'm not so sure because they've got the Big Bash, which is good, really good. And
that's after what's going to happen for the World Cup.
No, but they've had the Big Bash, so they're developing basically one-day players, aren't they? Although it's 20 overs, 50 overs, because you've already said Josh Felipe, am I not right in thinking, is a 20-over star, really? He opens the batting, doesn't he? Gives it a whack in the 20-over game.
Yes, that's true. That's true. But he can bat better than that, I can tell you. He's a quality player. So, yeah, look, I think because of the captaincy of Aaron Finch, and he has a great captaincy regimen with the short form, and he's well liked and he's well followed. They haven't got Maxwell there, for example, which would be a certainty if he was there. He's a loss to them. Dan Christian and Mozon Reeks will certainly provide them, and they've both got IPL experience, as we know, and also they're well liked. So they're going to be, that could be the harmonious grouping of players that they need. This Ashton Turner, I haven't got too excited about him. They keep raving about him, but I haven't really seen him do that well. But anyway, so that's...
Norman, the good thing about Dan Christian is you'll be able to have a sit down with Fidel Edwards and Chris Gale and the rest of the West Indies own 50s and relive old times while they're sipping chamomile tea together, won't they? It's fantastic.
That's true. That's true. I like that. That's funny. But I mean, Dan Christian is probably fitter than he's ever been, to be honest, which is an incredible thing because he certainly has turned himself around. But he seems to be maturing and picking his time and knows his place and knows his weaknesses and he's doing really well. So,
there's a question here from Ekish Chandra, second one up, just come in. What do we think about Saqib Mahmood? And does he fit in the full-strength English team, maybe to replace Tom Curran?
I think yes.
I think if you remember rightly, going back to what I said earlier in the week, because I'm obviously always right, as you know, Norman. I think I said that they like. I said Saqib will play. They like him. They do. He's in and around it. He
led the bowling attack. He led the bowling attack.
But he doesn't get in the full-strength side. I'm really sorry to say.
But when you start losing Broad and Anderson, which you will at some stage, he will come in.
I think I was talking about the one-day side.
Okay, but still,
when you start losing Broad and Anderson, we've got Wood and Wokes and Archer and Stokes and the young quick guy who came in, bowled pretty well. Ollie Stone, and Sam Curran. There is a long, and Ollie Robinson. There's a long waiting list to be anywhere near the Test side. The one
but I'll tell you what he's worth. He won't shame them.
He bowled well. He bowled okay. He's young and a bit raw.
He got the wicket of Baba Azam pretty easily. That was a great wicket.
Yeah, the best wicket, by the way, was the one Lewis Gregory got. That was an absolute peach, shaded in and then went away. A little leg cutter away, and the guy nicked it. Cool,
that goes back to your point earlier. You talked about genuine pace in England. Do you always need genuine pace to beat the bat, though, if you're bowling good cutters and swingers?
No, in England, you don't. The bowlers have always done traditionally the best here are your Broads and Jansons. Look at Wokes now. Wokes is going to give India major problems. Anyone in India who thinks that it's a Broad and Anderson show, Chris Wokes is going to provide you with a lot of problems. And Ollie Rob if he plays, but I can't see Ollie Robinson getting in. I think that the bowling's too strong. But in answer to your question, the problem is when you go around the world and using the Kookaburra ball, and we try and set our side up to get to Australia, really, don't we? Because for us, it's all about the Ashes. And we know that the 83 to 85 mile an hour pitch 'em up, do a bit nibbly bowlers aren't going to do it in Oz. We need the Woods and the Archers and the Oddie Stones who are getting it near 90 miles an hour, because that's what you need to win in Australia. And that's what they're gearing it up to do. That's what everything's been set up to do that.
Yeah, but the reality is you can gear it up for that. I get that. But I'm just more concerned about, well, how can I put this? I just don't think that we shouldn't discount what's going on now. That's what I'm trying to say. That there's been, we always plan for an Ashes Test series. I get that, but there's so much going on between then and now. It's not like it used to be, where there were fairly substantial gaps in play. You've got a World Cup, you've got even the IPL, you've got the India series, you've got a whole host of other events going on in all parts of the world. It's kind of a weird time, but the World Cup's actually throwing a spanner into the preparation for the Ashes series for England, I would argue, because they're going to come off that crescendo just before the Ashes series, aren't they?
Well, there's a different. We've got, unlike Australia to a certain extent, and India to a major extent, I think we've got a pretty different test side. Not completely different, but there is enough personnel changes, because you won't have Sibley, Burns, or Crawley or Root playing in the
World Cup.
They play in the test, and they won't be. I'd be surprised. In around the squad, maybe. I don't think they'll play in the World Cup. So there's a bit of change there. Pope's not in the 50 over side or the 2020 side either. So there's enough for England to not.
You're talking about the batsmen, though, aren't you? You're not talking the bowlers.
Yeah, the bowling changes a bit. I don't know how good. I don't know how far Archer is away from coming back. I wonder if they'll just keep him, try and get him ready for Brisbane.
My little birdie tells me that Archer's, I don't want to use the word finished, but Archer's not going to be able to sustain a long-term career. His limitations are pretty much there, and that his injury is not just an elbow injury, it's a chronic condition that he could have operation after operation that's not going to fix. It's a bit like having a shoulder, reconstruction that goes wrong. His elbow is that bad, and because of his technique, relies on his elbow so much and his action, that he's actually in deep trouble of ever being able to recover.
Well,
talking about ever being able to recover, here we have Siddharth Vishwanath.
Hello.
Hey.
How are you?
Hi. How are you all?
Have you met each other?
No,
we haven't. It's my pleasure. It's an honor to meet you, Siddharth.
Honor to meet you too.
Well, we know this is obviously Chris's older half. I'd say better half, older half. Is the way of expressing father? Or?
Bigger half, that's for sure.
Bigger.
Yeah. Yep,
How are you, Siddharth?
Coping up well. I mean, COVID is on the decline here, but still there are a lot of cases. So, but it's incredibly humid and hot. Incredibly humid and hot. We have not had rains.
Whereabouts are you, Siddharth?
Delhi.
Okay. We've got a COVID rising here.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Because of the variant that's come round, and because the government are relaxing restrictions.
Yeah.
Because the infections now are very much in the younger generation, which is at risk. Does that make sense? So they're more laid back to have the infections going up when it's you're just getting maybe cold and flu symptoms, which you're going to recover from because you're young and fit and healthy. But you're going to have to be aware in India that if this variant then comes and hits you guys, you could have another wave of it.
Indeed.
They call him that the Delta variant, aren't they?
Yeah,
Delta variant,
it was the Indian. They did call it. It was the Indian variant. But political correctness gone mad. That's going to upset too many people. Apparently, there was no disrespect to India. It's where they first, the variant was first detected. I think. But
the Brazilian.
It's now called Delta.
Yeah, Delta, because because in this society, normal, we can't open our mouths without upsetting somebody. And I don't think anyone in India would have been upset by it because it was where it was discovered. Oh gosh.
Yeah, it's a problem. I mean, and now because in England you've got the Euro finals, that's full capacity Wembley. Plus you've got the Grand Prix in Silverstone, that's over 200,000 capacity.
Well, Lord's tomorrow for Pakistan
Yeah.
is full house. At
Even
Lord's.
Edgbaston, I assume. Even Edgbaston.
No restrictions. So look, they know that the rates are going to go up. We know it's up to 20, 30,000 cases a day.
Yeah.
It was down to 300 or 400 a day, sort of silly numbers. But they're saying that because nearly everyone over 50 who wants, well, everyone over 30 who wants a vaccination has been vaccinated, and 35 million people have been double vaccinated. They're not getting it, and if they are getting it, they're getting it as milder symptoms. They're not necessarily going to hospital, and they're not dying from it. That they are relaxing it because of that. That's the way of looking at it. Now, this is something I'm pleased you're on, Siddharth. This is something that is going to bring into cricket, Norman. This is interesting. They're going to have to take a view on what they're going to do in sport. But we'll look at it in cricket, purely in cricket, because we had an outbreak in English cricket one-day side this week.
Yes.
And let's forget Hales. It's nonsense. He's not coming back.
But they should still be telling what's going on. Anyway,
he's done. So they had an outbreak in the cricket team, and they took out the whole squad of players.
Yep.
Now they can't do that again. They're going to have to announce what they're going to do going forward, because let's run this forward. Cases are on the increase in this country. Last summer in England, they were in a massive bio bubble where they were confined to a hotel. They're not doing that now. They're playing all around the country. They're back to a semblance of normality. Somebody at some stage in the next month or whatever, whether it be for the 100 or the one days with Pakistan or the test series with India, someone somewhere is going to get COVID, whether it's backroom staff or a player. You cannot tell me that if someone in the England test team gets tested as positive, they're going to take out the whole of the England test team and replace it. That's not.
Well, that's going to be interesting. That's going to be very interesting.
Well, it can't happen. And what happens if someone in the Indian side gets it, which could happen?
It will happen. It will happen.
They can't replace the whole of the whole testing. What they've got to do is they've got to test them, and if they're positive, they can take that player out. But if another players are tested and they come back as clean, and or the symptoms aren't bad, if they've got, you can get COVID when you're young and fit and not have any real problems with it. They're gonna.
It's this situation. It's this situation here. I'm just visualizing. August 4th, first test. Everybody who's in contact with both the England and the India teams. And remember, the latest outbreak in the England camp was more with the backroom staff people, not the players.
I think 3 players and 4 backroom.
3 players and 4. Yeah. Now, what if someone in the IPL 2021 was postponed because someone breached the bubble? And it spread like wildfire. Now you had to postpone it. What will happen if the same thing happens now? Because you're going to travel all over the country. Should it not? Common sense. Should it not be that situation like you play 2 tests in Southampton and play 3 in Old Trafford? That's it. Those 2 are biosecure venues. The hotel is in the venue.
Yeah.
So that you minimize the risk of contact.
Yeah,
arranging logistics for 5 different venues, from experience in India, 6 different venues killed us. For 5 different venues, has the ECB tried it out? I don't think so.
Yeah, well, what they're doing is, because they thought the infections are on the decrease, and because the country is opening up, and you've got to be honest. Here now, the restrictions are very minor. I mean, it's a little bit, but we're pretty much open for business as usual. And from the 19th of July, which is Monday week, isn't it? There are no restrictions. You're not even going to have to wear masks, Norman. No masks.
Okay. We're forgetting something about this. Why are all the players, I believe, are they all vaccinated?
I think that they've all had a first vaccination.
The Indian players have had 1 dose.
Yeah.
Before arriving in the UK, they had 1 dose.
Yeah.
Now, because we require a waiting period of 84 days, maybe when they come back, they'll get the 2nd dose. Maybe.
Right.
But
Well,
when will they come back to India?
If they would have taken Pfizer, they would have only wait 3 weeks.
Yeah. But again, Covaxin in India, Covaxin has a shorter wait period, 28 to 45 days. You can take both the doses. Covishield, which I took, has a period of 84 to 120 days. Wait. So
Okay.
I got mine in May.
It's a long time.
Yeah, I got mine in May end, May 25th. My next dose is scheduled only in August end or September.
Okay.
Okay. So just like what I'm trying to make out is when the players are all vaccinated fully, then this is not a concern, is it? Even if they did
Well,
get
they can
COVID.
still get it, Norman. You can still get it.
Yes.
That's
But
what I'm
you're-
saying. So let's just say they're all vaccinated and they get it. Why would you then need to stop the games happening then? Why would you? Because
Well, this is what they're going to have to decide. If people are getting it, but they're getting a mild infection, that some of them might not even feel ill and still might think they can carry on
well,
playing.
what's the issue then?
Well,
if they're all vaccinated,
because they haven't done it.
Or getting a cold.
They got it this week, and they've taken the whole squad out. They've taken the whole squad out.
No, because of the timing of the vaccinations, I'm saying. If they had the vaccination
they're going to have to come out with a decision and a statement of how they're going to do it going forward.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because
get everybody vaccinated, both
now,
doses, and then you're done.
I heard on a cricket show this morning I was listening to that apparently the ECB are down to £2.2 million funds left. They cannot afford for this test series to be cancelled, or the 100 to be cancelled.
Yep.
They will be out of money, so they cannot afford it. It's vitally important. India is is this second series to us here. It's Australia. No disrespect to India. Australia is our main tour.
Absolutely.
Well, I'll tell you what,
we'll fill out.
If all of Australia's not vaccinated by Ashes, there's something wrong.
Yeah.
So,
but India are going to pack the grounds will be packed, okay? Because we've got a massive Indian support here, and it's going to be fantastic. And they cannot afford to lose that. They obviously haven't done it in Southampton and Manchester, Old Trafford. Sorry, it's the same place. The last test is at Old Trafford, but they've opened the grounds up. They can't now shift it to those grounds because they're booked up and they've got other things, and it would logistically, I don't think they could.
But let me just highlight one situation, okay?
Yeah.
Supposing, because there will be fans, supposing, how are you going to monitor if somebody gets COVID in the middle of the match? You'll pause the match, you'll stop the match. We don't know. Because this is new ground for everybody, because you had closed doors in England last year. So you had no cases in that way. But if you had to address the point forward,
the way they did it was superb. Hard on the players.
Absolutely.
You know,
I have to commend the ECB for organizing 2 bio bubbles, which was impeccable. If you breach the bio bubble, you are out of the next test. Even if you are James Anderson, Stuart Broad, they would still be booted out. Jofra Archer got booted out for breaching the bio bubble. But my only concern is, how stretched will the ECB be in maintaining so many bio bubbles? Because as you have seen, in India, we had 6 bio bubbles. We had a massive disaster. Because the person who had the shoulder injury, he went to a hospital that was outside of the bubble. He contracted it there. He spread it inside the bubble. Gone. Yeah. Everything went for a toss. Is the ECB capable enough? In particular, Restrata are the company that are managing the bio bubble situation. Are they capable enough to handle 6 or 7 bio bubbles?
Well, the thing is, they're not in a bio bubble, are they? That's the thing. And I've just seen a comment come up on the screen there, and this will answer the question. Last year, they were in a completely secured environment. Now, they are not. They are still in an environment where they are keeping certain protocols, but they are staying in hotels where other people are staying. They are using doors where other people are using doors. They are able to go out and train. And so it is not the same thing. It is not the same thing at all. So these players were able to contract it because they're going home at night. Last year, you remember in the bio bubble, these players were not allowed to go home, see friends or families or loved ones. They were basically locked up in a hotel in their own rooms when they weren't playing. They weren't even allowed to leave their rooms and meet other players. That's a very different thing to what it is now. Now they are trying to keep them apart, but you can't. They're not doing that. They're allowed to go out. They're allowed.
Because I'll tell you why. The situation in India, we are breathing a sigh of relief that we are down to 45,000 cases a day. 45,000. In the UK now, it's 32,000 per day, but that's alarming.
And going up. Going up.
Yeah, we are breathing a sigh of relief because in the period from April to May, we had cases of 400,000 every day. Every day, 400,000. Now, the variant spreads so rapidly, but you look at how the situation is here. In so many states, they've gone for tourism. People are packed on the roads. No social distancing, no masks. On July 19th, you announced that they are even thinking of going out without masks. We are not even in that situation yet.
Yeah.
Because what was the normal protocol? You have no cases for close to 6 weeks. Then you start easing off. Forget easing off. We have not even come to the stage where cases plateau or go down to zero in 6 weeks. We are not even in that situation.
But see, once I come back to the fact that the numbers of vaccinations, if you reach 80, well, I'm going to be high and say 80%, isn't it worthwhile then not looking at the increased rate of number of cases per day and being able to allow certain relaxations because of the fact they're vaccinated? Isn't that possible?
But Norman, I mean, I don't know, because as it was pointed out, even if you get the double vaccination, you're bound to get COVID. The fact is that it spreads so much, isn't it? It spreads so rapidly that you can't.
So I'm just laughing at Bahram Irani's comment. Eyes on COVID-19. We've changed channels. He's changed channels.
Sid's right. Sid, you're right. This variant is more transmissible than other variants, so it's easier to get.
Because only one person will not get infected. If one is infected, 11 will get infected. Because you know what was the multiplier?
That's right.
I'll tell you one instance. There was a religious congregation, about 200 to 300,000. One person has the capability of infecting, according to studies here, one person is capable of infecting 400 people around him without social distancing. Now 300,000 into 400. Imagine the explosion that has happened. That's what happened in April, May. And we are still reeling from it.
Yeah, but what's happening here is that the government have taken a view that they're not that worried about the numbers going up, because if they were, they wouldn't be relaxing. They'd be locking us down again. It's because the main people who are getting it are younger. They're not being hospitalized and they're not dying from it. Some are, don't get me wrong, there's some, but generally speaking, most people getting it are younger and they're getting mild symptoms. So
it's very, very worrying. Very worrying.
They take a view that the older people like me and Norman, crikey, very old like Norman, but the younger people like me who might get it are now not going to hospital with it and are recovering. So,
well, the reality is, look, we have cases in Prince of Wales Hospital, which is, I told you, near me. For the first time, they've had any COVID overnight stays in the whole 18 months. First time. They're all young. They're all under 30. And some of them going to ventilator stage, which is quite a dramatic turnaround, is it not?
Yeah.
It's quite a shock to Australia, I tell you.
But what's it up saying is right, of course. What's going to happen come the first test in a month's time at Nottingham if on day 3, Ishant Sharma and Joe Root have suddenly been tested positive overnight? Might not be that ill, but they've been tested positive. Are they going to take them out of the game? Yes, they'll have to. Well, are they going to allow a substitute for them? And then what happens to the rest? If on day 4, suddenly then Kohli and Rohit come down, have been tested positive, and 2 more England players, are they going to replace them in a test match? You can't do that. The game would be a farce.
We have not even, the ECB, I'm sure, have not explored this potential happening. They haven't. No one has the foresight to do it. But then we are sitting, we have known the full impact of COVID.
They're worried.
No, because if the game is called off, you're going to lose plenty of money. Why is the BCCI adamant on hosting? Why is the Olympics going ahead, despite Tokyo having such a big surge? Because the IOC would have lost anywhere between 3 to 4 billion.
Yeah.
That's a huge money. That's huge money to lose. Even the IPL, half would be 225 million. I don't think even the richest board in the world would want to lose that much amount of money. It's all the monetary factor. UEFA have taken such a high-handedness. When they came to England, they said, no. Oh, don't test our VIPs, boss. Don't test us. They are VIPs. Why should we get tested? Look at the high-handedness that they had when they came over to Wembley.
Isn't that madness? Why can't you be tested? I don't get that.
COVID doesn't differentiate, or we are the people who differentiate. So that is the problem. And imagine you've got 90,000 in potential attendance for the final on Sunday, England versus Italy. Because England are in the final, it's going to be massive. If England win, the celebrations after that, I'm sure there'll be no social distancing.
There'll be believe me, I live here. The celebrations already have been massive, and there's no social distancing. They're meant to, but there's none. Everyone just gets up and hugs and kisses everyone. You know what it's like.
All the people that went to Wembley tested before and after? After?
Yeah.
So what do they have to provide?
They have to provide a negative test within 48 hours of attending the event. And then they have to do a test within 2 days afterwards.
So they got results back for that yet?
Well, I assume they have, but they haven't printed. They won't tell us what they are necessarily. The reason they're doing a test after is not because it can do anything. It's because they want to monitor and see if there has been an infection and how that has spread in the crowd and where it spread from, where those people were. That makes sense, doesn't it? So they can monitor and they can get data analysis. What's Munchie said? There will be in my house. What's it going to be in your house?
He meant to return to drinking, I'd say.
Oh, crikey.
Munchie, I thought you were working. I thought you had meetings. It doesn't look like it.
I've got to tell you, excuse my language here, guys. Munchie is a real pussy when it comes to alcohol. I promise you, half a shandy and he falls off his low stool. He's a low stool because otherwise his feet don't touch the ground. So it's very low stool. So he doesn't hurt himself when he falls on the ground.
Oh, okay.
He's well,
he's obviously got one eye on his office work and one eye on he's listening to the call rather than
he's talking about social distancing. Social distancing. There will be in my house. Okay.
Social distancing's gone out the window in this country already, pretty much. It's you just got to take my word on that. The minute they open the pubs again, the minute alcohol gets involved, which is why the government lasted for so long without opening the pubs. A big outcry, lots of people moaning and groaning. But the reason is the minute you've had 2 pints, you don't care anything. Everything.
I mean, if you have to play the devil's advocate, you can't fault the people from celebrating. If they win after 55 years, they'll finally be winning.
They're going to
something
anyway. But
you have to celebrate in that way. But it's a double-edged sword, unfortunately.
Yeah, Munchie's got that right, by the way. So with the size of his waistline, he's socially distant anyway. He can't actually get close to anyone, like Norman.
Now, Barami said he wants a Brompton out of stock here. Well, that's your fault, Barami. I'm not even sure that we can say anything.
I don't know what a Brompton is, Norman.
It must be a Brompton. I think that's a form of whiskey. If it's not, I'm not sure. I think it's a whiskey form. Okay, let's go. Let's move to us. Now, tomorrow we've got Pakistan versus England.
At Lord's, full house, no restrictions.
Right.
In the rain.
In
the morning.
India will keep the same. Sorry, England will keep the same side, I would assume.
They might make a change. Bear in mind they've got 18 players for 3 games. I would be surprised if they don't try and give as many of those an outing. Pretty tough if you've just been called out of nowhere into a squad and you'd sit there for 3 games on the bench. I would imagine they'll give a couple a go, a few a go. Most of them get a go over the 3 games.
What do you think of Simpson's keeping?
Nice. Didn't he look nice, didn't he? He's a proper keeper, isn't he?
Quite clean.
Looks solid.
Yeah. To be fair, a lot of the players look so. We didn't see all of them, of course.
Actually, Bryson as a cast, he looked pretty fast, didn't he?
Yeah, regularly clocking 140, 145.
He's probably he's a way away from being in the first choice setup, but Milan isn't, as we know.
But Carster's a bowler, though.
Yeah, he's an all-rounder. They were saying until
4
or 5 years ago, he was a batter who discovered that he could get it down there a rate of knots, and they've changed him into a fast bowler. Amazing. So I would say he's got to be an all-rounder, isn't he? I think he gives it the bit of, we call it the long handle here. Do you call it the long handle? He gives it a whack lower down the order, I think.
Okay, Rani's just said Brompton is an English-made folding bike. I thought it was alcohol he was talking about.
Okay, I don't know. I've never heard of
it. Never heard.
I'm sorry. I apologise for my ignorance.
That's all right. So
England playing Pakistan tomorrow, and Australia are going to beat the Windies over 50s tomorrow.
Okay, I'm not so certain. What do you think, Siddharth?
Well, you don't know with the Australians in the T20 format how they turn up, because again, the West Indies, they get their competitive quotient up when they play the Aussies anyway. So Pollard, Bravo, Gale, those guys like to play against the Australians. So maybe a close one, but yeah, the West Indies are surprisingly low on confidence after their loss to the West Indies. I mean, to the South Africans. I'm surprised. How did West Indies lose that 5-match series is beyond me. I just cannot fathom it.
Because
as I told you,
they're no good anymore.
Yeah. No, I think the West Indies are the opposite of India. They suck in bilateral contests, but in the World T20, they do incredibly well in ICC events. India do well in bilateral, but they suck in ICC finals. Simple.
You tell me how you can go through a transition period in your cricket, no matter what the format, by bringing back a load of people from a care home who basically can't even run around the field.
I'll tell you what, being, someone like
I
Chris
agree
Gale,
with him on the Gale part.
Around.
He can't run. Chris Gale can't run. Period.
Does he need? When he bats, he doesn't need to.
But then when he fails, he's a liability. When he fails.
Yeah, I guess.
We've all played in cricket sides with people like you, Norman, where you can hide one bloke in the field. You can sort of get away with it a little bit, can't you? But when
I used to catch even
when you've got 4 or 5, he's Fidel Edwards. He's a good player, but he's 39. How is that benefiting to West Indies?
Hang on. How old's Jason? What's his name? Your opening bowler, James Anderson. How old's he?
But he's not been out of this. He's not been out.
No. But that argument, your argument falls apart when you look at James Anderson's age. He is still playing. So if you're talking about
in the one-day side, 5 years ago, James Anderson, I don't think has played a one-day game since 2014 or something.
15. The World Cup was his last.
So they jettisoned him and Broad to give him a longer Test career, but they haven't been out of the side. Whereas Fidel Edwards hasn't played much, I don't think, for 2 or 3 years for the West Indies.
Norman, Gale hasn't played a Test for 6 years. Gale hasn't played a Test in 6 years, 7 years. He only played ODIs in 2019. That's it. He hasn't played ODI since 2019, Test since 2014.
But he's still making millions floating around all the different leagues around the world.
They brought them in for the view to the World 2020, haven't they? They've brought all these superstar players back who don't really want to play. All they want to do is go and make their money around the World 2020 competitions. But they've managed to convince them somehow to come back with a view to the 2020 World Cup. Because you don't really think that the Pollard and the other old guy and Gale, they're not that interested in the West Indies, are they? Because if they were, they'd be playing.
Well, actually, take a step back. You can't blame Gale, Pollard, Bravo, Fidel Edwards and the rest of them for not playing for the West Indies because they've been treated pretty poorly. They've been played very, 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 very badly for a long time. And it's often, again, I'm afraid, due to mismanagement.
It's politics. It's island politics.
Money doesn't go in the right places.
Yeah. But there's massive politics in the West Indies that we don't even know about of the island.
Understandably. I mean, for God's sake, they're different countries. They're not part of the same country. I'm not surprised.
Gale and Pollard, if they fight, it's a battle between Jamaica and Trinidad, 2 different countries.
And then Antigua is where the West Indies Cricket Board is headquartered now. It used to be Barbados. And I tell you what, Barbados would not be happy with that, with not being the so-called epicenter of West Indies cricket.
Yep.
Barbados,
the Windward Islands.
Barbados are the bullies generally. They take on the money, and they're the biggest tourist island in the West Indies, and generally have a lot of money. So it was arrested and taken to Antigua, which is a lot more of a smaller. It's intriguing the way that goes. When they're bloody countries, we forget that.
32 countries. I think the West Indies are made up of 32 countries, right from South America till North America.
It's when you look at, I mean, the classic, I think I mentioned before, Dominica, English colony, between Martinique and Guadeloupe, they're completely different. Languages, culture, currency.
Yeah, but Norman, you could say that about, and please, I'm not trying to be offensive, you could say that a little bit about India. Am I right? I'm right in thinking that India, massive country, and very much, they have their own states who look, and the language changes as well, doesn't it?
Yep. But they're still India. They're still playing. No, I don't know.
Yeah, there is a sense of oneness. I mean, it's not as if Mumbai considers a different country. Chennai doesn't consider it a different country. I think the dynamics with West Indies is a lot different because they feel, okay, I'm from Jamaica. Jamaica should get most of the cricketing, appreciation. Trinidad and Tobago, at one point in time, they were going to play as a separate entity. They wanted to split from the West Indies Cricket Board. Because imagine the Trinidad team that were there. Dwayne Bravo, Darren Bravo, Kyron Pollard, Sunil Narayan. All those guys were part of the Trinidad team in the 2010s. They were powerful enough.
Trinidad, wasn't he? I'm going back a little bit further. Well, we have the same here, of course. Scotland and Wales are in this the same country. We're not split by. They're not different islands. I think people think they are. They are not. They are. You can drive straight into Scotland and Wales from England. There's
absolutely. I've done that.
Wales and England are part of the one cricket board.
Yes, but Scotland could easily be. There are a separate country, but they're not separated from the mainland. We're all on one island here.
Yep.
True.
But different languages. Let me tell you, different languages. Wales,
Scotland and England. Yeah.
Wales and England.
Well, but even Manchester to London will be different too. But hang on. What about? But for the Olympics, they become Great Britain. Is that right?
Team GB.
Team GB and Ireland. It's Team GB and Ireland. And
so England, Scotland, and Wales become one entity for the Olympics.
And Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
So why is that? Why do they do that for Olympics?
I have a feeling it's the way it's always been, that we've competed as one.
Well, look at the West Indies. I mean, it's Jamaica, Antigua, Barbados. They're all separate.
But UEFA were trying at one stage to get us in football to be Team GB, Great Britain football team, which would have meant Wales and Scotland being part of the English football team. Well, that's good luck with that.
Yeah.
Or rugby, for that matter, as well. That'd be pretty hard to imagine.
Yeah, but in the Commonwealth Games, we compete as separate. England and Scotland and Wales. I think I'm right. I'm sure someone will correct me if I'm wrong. I think they compete as their own countries in that.
Not in the Commonwealth. Not in the Commonwealth.
Are you sure that Scotland don't compete as Scotland in the Commonwealth Games?
I don't think so. I don't remember.
I'll have to check.
Yeah, I mean, I may be very wrong. I mean,
I agree with Charles Manju here. I don't care what age Gale is. If he's playing, I don't care if he's staying up first slip. I want it, and your son would agree. Having him the size having a few pitches there.
I love Gale.
But again, the key here is perform. If he performs,
not try. I don't enjoy. Look, I wasn't a very good cricketer. Let's get that right. I played a lot, but I wasn't very good. But one thing I did have is every time I went on the field, I tried my bloody heart out for the side, okay? And I watched Chris Gale, and he just saunters around. And even when he bats, he doesn't run anymore. Crikey, get him to run a single, he walks it.
Yeah, but wait a minute. He hit 3 sixes in the over. He can walk the last one. Trust me.
Great. If that's your view, great. He can. Of course he can. I just want to see him. If I was captain of that side, drive me mad watching him.
But who would you prefer to see? Chris Gale bat or some very fit 20-year-old who, may edge out of 50 but still play well? I prefer to see Gale any day.
I'd rather watch AB de Villiers bat or Virat Kohli bat.
No, I prefer to know Gale's box office when he plays World Cup.
I'd rather watch Kohli because I'll tell you what, I do have some issues with Kohli's arrogance, but boy, he played with his heart on his sleeve. You can't deny that he's playing for India and he's playing to do his best.
I'll tell you what,
Can you?
I would argue, from my experience with Virat Kohli, he is truly not arrogant at all.
Well, I'd say he comes over as being.
Well, he's confident. He's he's fearless, but arrogance, I think that's a word you can't use. Do you agree, Siddharth?
He's passionate.
Yeah. And there's a fine line, isn't there, Siddharth?
No, but then again, I would agree with both of you, but I guess sometimes if you cross the line with Kohli, then he becomes very aggressive. Especially if you write anything impractical about his wife, he becomes very, very arrogant and aggressive.
Yeah, but
I think everybody can do that.
And aggression is two different things. Aggression and arrogance are two different things.
But he holds on to certain things which makes it arrogant. If one journalist has written anything bad against him or criticized him, he will give him the cold shoulder. So that is a perception of arrogance in that sense.
Give me 5 players in world cricket. Five players in world cricket that are arrogant over the years. Who are 5 that are truly arrogant? Doesn't mean necessarily that they show the arrogance, by the way, too. I'll explain that. Who are truly arrogant? Give me your examples.
I don't like Glenn Maxwell. Here you go.
He's actually not arrogant at all. He's cocky, he's cheeky. Shane Warne is not arrogant, he's cocky and cheeky. Shane Watson is arrogant.
Yeah. Ooh.
Shane Watson is overwhelmingly arrogant. With his own players, he's arrogant. The other person's arrogant is, I'm sorry to say, Mark Waugh. People won't believe this, but Mark Waugh is extremely arrogant. Mark Waugh and Shane Watson are the two who are truly arrogant. And what I mean by arrogance, they will not talk to the public if they don't have to. That's arrogance. That's my test of arrogance. Who else would you say, guys? Anyone else you can think of?
I'd have to think about it. Well, Viv Richards had a certain arrogance about him, but it's the same.
No, but but
it's the same discussion. It's a fine line.
No, Viv Richards, when he walked out with that confidence, like an arrogant confidence. Well, yes.
No, but he was always termed as having arrogance, the way his whole demeanor, the way he played.
Maybe the swag that he had, the batting swag.
But I tell you what, he sits next to you and he'll say, when he's got to leave, he'll say, "You must excuse me, I've got to leave." That's not arrogance. Ricky Ponting is not arrogant. Dean Jones was not arrogant. Completely wrong.
Greg Matthews, hated him. Hated Greg Matthews.
Sorry?
Hated Greg Matthews.
Greg Matthews, he's a bit...
hated him when he played for Australia. He used to
what about the other Greg Chappell? What about Greg Chappell?
A little bit.
Yeah.
His brother Ian, absolutely not. A decent man.
Ian is
very
great.
decent.
Would you have called Sir John Bradman arrogant? I think he was.
But you know what? If anyone can ever be called arrogant and be allowed to be arrogant, he can.
Yeah.
When you listen,
I've got
Donald Bradman's autobiography on audio, read by Donald Bradman.
Wow.
It's fantastic. It's fantastic to listen to. It's about a 3-hour audio tape I have, and I think it gives the impression that when he finished up playing, he had certain problems in Australian cricket.
He did.
And I think that probably comes down to probably a little bit of arrogance on his side. I think he mellowed as he got older, as people do. You're arrogant.
Hang on, if your batting average at Test level is 99.94.
Whoa.
I think
you can be as arrogant as you want. Now,
Yeah.
Irani, what's this about me? I'm gonna put my finger. What are you talking about? I'm not arrogant.
There is no way that Norman Kochnick is arrogant. I'll tell you why. Because he's listened to me and Siddharth drone on for the last 45 minutes with hardly any interruptions. We're talking absolute nonsense, and he sits there with a smile on his face. And that is.
I love it. Okay, get back to the point. I'll tell you now. I don't mind being honest. Mark Waugh, arrogance. Shane Watson, arrogance. As I said to you, my judgment on that is when you're amongst people, not on camera, amongst crowd, not on camera, when you're behind the back of a bus, not on camera. That's where you judge arrogance. If you don't give a person the time of day, that's where arrogance shows up naturally. Okay, like you would with a waiter or with a janitor. That's what I'm getting at.
What about AB?
Sorry,
AB.
No
Alan
way.
Border.
No way. I can pick up the phone. I can ring AB to Alan Border now. AB de Villiers or AB Border?
Alan Border.
If you ring Alan Border now, he'll talk to you for half an hour.
Wow. That is rare.
Alan Border will say, "Look, I'd love to, Norman, but I can't." He'll give you the real reason. Dennis Lilly will tell you, "I'm not into that anymore, Norman, but we can have a chat now if you want."
Lily's
talk next hour. Yeah. I did that recently. We talked about Stuart McGill for about an hour. Incredible man. Adam Gilchrist. Oh my God, the most amazing person on earth. He'll be in a lift with you. He'll start the conversation. Right? Mark Wall will look at you as if, "Don't even ask me a question. I'm too good for you." Shane Watson's the same. Those two, no time for them. I'm sorry. And I'm going to be I know I'm on a public platform here, but I'm going to say it because it's bloody true. I'm not going to hide that fact. Coley, every time I've seen him in a personal, quieter situation, there's been a few occasions, he'll talk to everybody. Whereas the rest of his team may not on that day, but he will.
He will.
He honestly, Richard, he is Virat Kohli being on the field and being arrogant is you want to get in that mood. It's like a boxer almost. It's a different scenario where you may appear arrogant, but it's actually being fearless. And that's what he's.
Arrogance is good in a sportsman to a certain extent.
Absolutely, on the field, and
a little bit off the field, because you have to have that.
Not when you're with the average public, no.
I don't know.
But Richard, do you think that apart from the British press, I think English cricketers' access is very difficult to get by? They don't interact much with the public, I assume. Apart from the British press, the English cricketers, the current lot?
I think they've learned over the years that if they are accessible to the press, all the press are going to do is dig the dirt on them and splash them all over the pages. So this is going back to maybe the 80s, 1980s, 90s, where there was access and they did sit down and have a beer with the press. Nowadays, with social media and everything, they found that if they do anything at all, they're going to be splashed everywhere. So it's become more of a closed shop.
Yeah. I mean, Ollie Robinson will testify
Marlon
to
Samuels,
that.
Arrogant. Marlon Samuels, arrogant. Well, I can go.
Yep.
Just quickly on Barami. I'm sorry, Baram. You may have had that experience. I have never had that experience.
Yeah.
Never.
However, Norman, Marlon Samuels did the greatest sledge I've ever seen to Stokes, and it will long live in the memory, where he saluted him going off when they got him out.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
just a deadpan salute.
And saluted him off the pitch. Oh, bloody brilliant. Absolutely. Hats off to Marlon.
Stokes was fuming. He was fuming,
absolutely. Sledging's great. Why would you ever get rid of sledging as part of the game of cricket if it's not if it's not really nasty personal? Oh, it's the greatest thing in the world. And that was brilliant. That was great.
Jeffrey Boycott.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Boycott is a perception of arrogance, doesn't he? Opinionated.
He's not. He's actually a really humble guy.
It's the same with Michael Vaughan. Is Michael Vaughan arrogant? Possibly. He's very opinionated now. He's in the press. That's what his job is, in a way, to give a potentially a controversial opinions.
KP. What about KP?
Arrogant.
Kevin Peterson.
Again,
had to become arrogant to do what he did, to come out of South Africa, move country, get noticed, get playing.
He's cocky. He's cocky is the word I would
He likes
use.
to play to the galleries. Yeah.
He was an arrogant cricketer, wasn't he? Arrogance on the field with KP.
Well, Kevin Peterson, when it comes to his relationship to Spartan and to a company which relates to saving rhinos, I think it's called SOAR or something. I can't remember the pronunciation. He is particularly passionate and is really nice. And that's post cricket, mind you. But look, no, I'm sorry. I've got some very strong opinions. Having seen some of these greats behind, as you would know, I'm talking about Siddharth. When you're in the media scrum, you do get to see the real people very often, don't you?
Indeed, you do. Because in India, the culture of arrogance, that we may say, has come now, especially after the match fixing scandal erupted. Before that, Kapil Dev, a brilliant gem of a human being, gem of a guy. Because Kapil Dev understood where did he come from. I mean, we are talking about MS Dhoni in the modern era. But imagine in 1970s India, when it was dominated by Bombay and Delhi, to come from a very small town, break into the Indian team, and captain the side full of egos and religious, I mean, not religious, regional differences. You won the 1983 World Cup. That was Kapil Dev. And that's why, if we have to live according to that standard of how a sportsman should conduct himself, we have to be like Kapil Dev. Genius of the field. I just remember one incident in 1991. The Ranji final, the main first-class final, was happening in India. Haryana, where he represented the state, had come to Bombay. Bombay were the 30-time champions. One Bombay cricketer went up to him. They were worried. Should I approach Kapil? Should I not approach Kapil? He approached Kapil. He looked at him, gave him the autograph, and then said, "Do you play cricket?" "Yes, sir. I am the under-16 captain of Mumbai." He said, "Next time, you sign autographs." That's the confidence he gave him.
Wow.
And later on, he would become one of the best players in India who never got a chance in the national team, because the middle order at that time was Rahul Dravid, Sachin Tendulkar, Saurav Ganguly, VVS Lakshman. He never got a chance. But you might have heard about him, Amol Muzumdar.
Yes.
He was the guy. Amol Muzumdar. So Kapil Dev said, next time, don't ask for autographs, sign them.
So what? Okay, we've talked about some players that I've had personal experience with and I've seen. It's intriguing. Dave Warner, for example, has learnt to be arrogant. Before he was cocky, brash, but still a matchable boy. Now, since he's made a fair bit of money, he's lost that cockiness and become arrogant. And it's false, because he's not a very intelligent guy, to be honest with him. And he thinks he's got to be arrogant to the people that's a different form of arrogance. That's a stupid arrogance. That's because, I'm now important. I'm not going to talk to you. That's not understanding your own position.
Well, I've had good times with David whenever I've interacted with him. When he had come to India in 2017, he and Steve Smith both. I mean,
Steve Smith's fine, but Warner's not arrogant when it comes to Indians.
Yes.
Because he, unfortunately, if I'm being really honest with you, he sees a big fat dollar sign.
Yep.
And he knows every Indian ultimately brings in money for him, and he needs to appease them. I'm sorry, that's actually, I hate, I'm not directing it towards you. I'm telling you, honestly, genuinely, that's fake. He's fake.
He's
when
not
it comes to his Indian love, that's complete rubbish. It's
they don't
fake
like
as
it
hell.
in the UK, that's for sure. David Warner's not popular here.
No.
I mean, you get destroyed by Broad and Archer many times over. You get into a fist fight with Joe Root. What more can you sing to in the
Who gets into a fist fight with Joe Root? The nicest guy.
Over Hashim Amla, that too. Over Hashim Amla, 2013. I mean, it was... Yeah, you remember in 2013, they were involved in a fight in Birmingham.
That's
right.
Apparently because Joe Root made some communal remarks on Hashim Amla. But why should that concern David Warner? It was one of the most bizarre and strangest incidents that I've ever read in my entire life. Ever.
Here's a good question. This is a name that I want you to comment on.
Michael Clark. Yeah, I did interact with him when he had come in the IPL in Jaipur. I don't know whether you call aloofness as arrogance.
He was successful from a very young age, got huge sponsors from a very, very young age. So he got used to that fame early on. It's more aloofness than arrogance. I don't think he's arrogant at all.
He's aloof.
He's aloof, not arrogant. I would agree with that. David Warner is acting arrogant when he doesn't even understand why he's doing it. It's very
I think
pathetic.
that the classic case, Norman, of aloofness, which was misinterpreted as arrogance, was Bill Lawry. Bill Lawry.
Exactly.
Norman,
Actually, you're right.
Norman, can I make a request? If Shy is going to put comments that he's just put up there, I think he should be blocked for a period of time, because just putting any
that's
Pakistan,
racially driven.
But it's just stupid, because Pakistan have given the world some of the greatest ever cricketers,
and the most humble.
You know, I don't know him personally,
the
but I've got to say,
for India now, for Pakistan, amazing guy. He doesn't forget. No, I don't agree with that at all.
People, but you're not telling me that people like Waqar Younis weren't great cricketers. And I'm sure, and I've heard that he's a good guy. So I don't know. You can't just brand a whole nation because you don't like that nation. It's wrong.
Any fast bowler has a bit of bravado about them, a bit of arrogance, because that's their beating their chest mentality.
But I think again, Shoaib Akhtar is honest. He's brutally honest. He may get trolled for it, but he's not arrogant, if I may.
He's a character. He's a
character, yeah.
He's extremely funny.
But most of the Pakistan players in this current batch, I mean, they have to be humble because they all come from very poor backgrounds.
Absolutely.
Mohammad Amir in particular came from very poor background. But then again, their problem is different. They get lured by all the riches, and that's why the spot fixing thing happened, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But with Misbah as well as Yunus Khan. Misbah is an MBA graduate and he speaks good English. I mean, that's the perception that he...
Incredible guy. And Yunus Khan, what an amazing person he is. What a champion. And the other one,
Azhar Ali.
Yunus Yohana,
Muhammad Yusuf, yes.
He was amazing.
Inzi was aloof. Inzamam ul Haq was aloof.
He wasn't arrogant. He's aloof.
He wasn't, but he had a language problem. That's the thing. He used to get trolled for his English.
I tell you what, he's a real character. I told you when I was talking about his running, Arjuna's running, and my running, and he got upset with me for me to compare him to Arjuna. Because actually, at the moment, Inzamam ul Haq is quite slim, surprisingly, despite being a big guy. But he was a character. I love him to death. Love him to death. What a great
one of the best batsmen to come. Oh, what a batter! What a batsman!
Yeah. What Ian Botham, is he arrogant?
I'm not in a position to comment. Richard might do it. I've never interacted with his Surreyan that much, unfortunately.
I wish I knew him. I'm not in that circle of elite.
Well, Jeff Thompson. I've had a first morning of a test with him at a lunch, and he seemed really nice. Really, really nice, down to earth, and he and Ian Chappell didn't get along. I don't know what happened there, but yeah, he's quite nice. Yeah, true champions aren't arrogant. I'll be honest.
I think we're getting the cross between what you like on the field of play and what you like off the field of play.
Exactly.
I think Botham has a certain amount of arrogance to his character.
On the field.
I think probably both. I think he would be, but his parties are legendary. Yeah, he hosts parties during tests and after tests, so he can't be that bad, can he? Because they are legendary parties. So,
wow,
the stories he tells, about his career. Norman, there's a question that's been asked by Vesnath Narain. Sorry,
yeah.
I've got my glasses on, guys. So sorry for the names. He clearly wants it answered. Richard, please talk about Trent Bridge pitch. And how do you expect it, considering the conditions we might expect? Please talk about India versus England. Okay, Trent Bridge is in Nottingham. It's a good ground for England. I mean, you know why we're playing India. That we play all the sides. It's a main venue. It's a funny shaped ground, so it's not a traditional oval as you would call it. It's usually quite short on one corner. It cuts in.
Yeah, it's strange.
It's a strange ground. It's a good venue for England in recent years. It's Stuart Broad's home ground. We talked about it the other day, Norman. It's where Stuart Broad bowed out the Australians about 5 years ago for 60 on a pretty flattish pitch, although it did a bit. Look, always in England, you're going to get the pitches are going to do a bit before lunch. Traditionally here, You're going to get a little bit for the first 2 hours. You've got to see the first session out, and then you would normally expect it to bat well for the next day and a half, generally. This is generally. And in England, if you win the toss, you would normally want to bat first, get through the first session, and then put the runs on the board, because you're going to hope that as the game moves on, it starts to turn and break up a little bit on days 4 and 5. That's traditionally what we would expect.
But if I have to just needle Richard slightly, Trent Bridge has been our fortress for quite some time. We haven't lost there for the past 35 years.
You forget 2021.
Wow.
2021.
We might lose this time. Yeah. we might. Because see, we drew in 96, we drew in 2002, we won in 2007 there. Even in our worst series in 2014, we drew there.
Yeah.
We won in 2018. Our only test win was in Trent Bridge. So we like that venue.
It depends on the weather conditions, as always in England. You've got to look. You don't look down, you look up. That's what they say.
Yep.
So if it's overcast and a bit grey, then, you know, it's going to swing around a bit and do a bit. So you've got to pick your side according to what the weather you think the weather's going to do. And I know India are going to go in with their 2 spinners, and I understand that Gul the other day, made a very sensible point about the balance of the side and how the makeup will be. But if it's the summer we've had so far, you would not play 2 spinners in England. If, however, we were a month away, we haven't had a summer yet here. It's supposed to be summer, but we haven't had it yet. If the weather dries up and we get a period of long dry weather, then it might be that the 2 spinners will come into it much more. But you generally at Trent Bridge, it's not known in our country as a big spinning wicket.
Yep.
So I would expect the seamers to hold sway on the venue, certainly for the first 2-3 days, and then see how it goes. But it's difficult to predict it now because we're a long way out. If you ask me in the week before the test match, when we know what the weather's been like and although they'll have the covers on, they'll dry it out, but I would expect...
in England, even the BBC gets the weather forecast wrong. So even one day before, you don't know how the weather's going to turn. And because there's a river, the wind from the river will also add a different dynamic to it in Trent Bridge. It's near the River Trent. I've had the privilege of just passing through Trent Bridge. I have not been there.
It's not a privilege. It's Nottingham. It's not a privilege, is it, to go to Nottingham?
For me, every cricket ground that I saw in England was a privilege.
Yeah.
Because I was a starstruck kid going back to where the game of cricket was born. Yeah. And I was like, wow. I went to Old Trafford for the England-New Zealand test match. And believe me, I made the biggest mistake. But the ground was beautiful. But on that day, it was so windy, my fingers just couldn't take it. That was the day Monty took 6 wickets and decimated New Zealand. That didn't help my mood anymore in that sense.
Yeah.
Oh, but I remembered from that time onwards, whenever I go to England, the next time I have to wear 2-3 gloves because the wind was a killer there, and he was getting the drift from that particular point. So, and luckily I wanted to shake Jacob Orum's hand, but because my fingers were so numb, I couldn't. I missed out on that opportunity. Because I used to love Jacob Oram at that. Because before Kane Williamson, my next favorite cricketer was Jacob Oram.
Big guy, Jacob Oram, wasn't he? Big
yeah. Super.
He could play too.
Yeah.
Just
brilliant
quickly, Hardik Pandit. What do you think of him?
No.
He's not arrogant. He's rather cool rather than arrogant.
Yeah, he sometimes gets into trouble because of his laid-back attitude. But he's a very focused guy. Very focused guy. Because even he has also he and his brother have undergone hardships. Many people in India, especially in the current team, have come out of really hard backgrounds. That's why they are more humble. No one's come here with a silver spoon. Rohit came from a very different, from a very difficult area in the interiors of India. Virat Kohli struggled big time in his school days. He lost his father. He had to get under the tutelage of his coach. Now see where he is. Even Ajinkya Rahane, we have trains in Mumbai where we have a second class. We are all packed like sardines in those second class compartments. In the first class, what was the difference? You can get standing space. Rahane would, with his kit, bear the crowds, bear all that for 2 hours to go for training, and he would come back and do the same thing. So he's grounded. Ashwin also, everybody. Jadeja lost his mother and his father. He was raised by his sister, so he knew. Cheteshwar Pujara, very down to earth guy, but he's scared to talk because the BCCI has got such measures that you cannot talk so freely to the media here. He's just scared to talk. Before an interview, if you ask Cheteshwar for Indian journalists, they'll say, I hope you're not going to ask anything about the BCCI, please. I can't talk anything about it. Other than that, you can. No, we'll talk something else, Cheteshwar. Oh, okay, no problem. He's that scared. So that's the only thing. So perhaps because in India, we have the strict wall, like, okay, you can't talk to them. Media blanket, no interviews. That's where I think the perception comes that Indian players are probably arrogant. I think they're not. They're bound by the system here that they cannot talk so freely. That's the only difference.
Yeah.
But among the Australians, I mean, I had a wonderful time with Steve Smith. I mean, I remember they came in.
Well, he's a nice bloke. He's a nice bloke. He's nice.
So when I had first seen him in Dharamshala, when I asked questions in that, when I came to Indore for the ODI series in October the same year, he remembered me, and then I said, "Oh shit, he remembers me." I was like stunned. Because I had met him for one press conference in Dharamshala, and 8 months later, I see him in Indore going for practice, and I said, wow, he does remember me. I was very, very stunned and happy.
Yeah,
I've been to a number of Cricket New South Wales functions, and he comes over and has a chat. Probably the one bloke that really shocked me was Nick Mattinson, who hasn't played much Test cricket, played a handful of games. He comes up to you and goes, he wants to know about you. He doesn't want to talk about himself. He wants to ask questions of you. Incredible guy. In fact, he and Adam Gilchrist is he and Michael Hussey and Simon Kadich are three of the loveliest people I've ever met. They have got time. They'll sit there and genuinely listen to everything you say and react to whatever you say. And they blow me away, actually. They're incredibly... Those three are the marquee players for Australia. By far.
Indeed,
all right.
Indeed.
I'm going to give my predictions, Norman. I gave it the other day, and then I'll let Siddharth can say what he thinks.
Right.
Trent Bridge, we just go back. They will leave some grass on it at Trent Bridge, so do not expect the Indian fans to be shouting and screaming because it looks a bit green. All the wickets look green in England to start before the Test, because as we said the other day, that's not because they want it to do all sorts and the game to be over quickly. That's the last thing they want. They want the game to go 5 days here. The whole thing is they want the money. So no pitch will be doctored to end it quickly. That's the last thing that they want. But by leaving the grass on at the start, a little bit of grass, a little bit of tinge of green, the pitch will last longer, and then it'll last longer into the days 4 and 5. That's the theory. If you take in our country, if you take all the grass off it, the pitch will probably break up by day 3, and then the game could be no good. I mean, the best Test cricket, you want to by about lunchtime on day 4, you want it to start turning a bit, don't you? First 3 days, a little bit good for batting. Days 4, better for bowling. Day 5, spinning. Anyway. So I said this the other day. This is what I think. I think England will win at Trent Bridge. This is dependent on the weather, guys. Brian.
Yeah.
Because the weather's important. So I think England win at Trent Bridge. I think we lose at Lords because we always lose at Lords. We're rubbish there. I think Headingley will be difficult for India. It's a good venue for England again. In lots of history at Headingley. If it a bit overcast at Headingley will suit England massively. I think we're 2-1 up. I think Oval will be a draw at the Oval, and best batting pitch in the country, the Oval, and then it goes to Old Trafford. And in mid-September, God knows what the weather will be like up in Manchester in mid-September. I think it's 2-1 going into the final Test to England. There you go.
Okay. But by what you've described, before we get to Siddharth's comments, before you it seems to me the first test is going to be more important than any other, because if England are expected to win, but India haven't lost there, something's going to give, isn't it? Something's going to give on that wicket. Someone's going to take the ascendancy early. That could be very important. It could actually sway the series. So it's almost shaping as the first test will be the most.
If England lose at Trent Bridge, I think we'll lose at Lords to India. I think India will beat us at Lords because we play rubbish at Lords often. There's a reason for that, I think. And this is going to sound bad, but I think touring sides lift their game when they play at Lords. I think it is the home. We've all been to Lords. I've not played there. I wish I had. Chris played there this year. There's something special about Lords, isn't there? When you walk out and you look at it, and it's the Mecca. It's the home of cricket. And I think that touring sides come there and they feel that. They feel that history. They feel that love of the game that you get. And to play at Lords, and you naturally raise your game up. You want to play
and to get a 5-wicket haul or to get a test century and get on those boards is the ultimate location. Yeah, and people like Tendulkar didn't get, and I think Tendulkar and Lara, is that right?
Tendulkar, Lara, Callis, Ponting.
Famous England batsman Atherton. Atherton never got 100 at Lords.
He was run out of 99. He slipped.
99, yeah, he did. Going for the third. Run out. Yeah, he never got 100 at Lords.
He never got 100.
So I think that sides do lift their game, and that's good. They're great. Well done. It's a good thing, to walk out in a venue, and feel that awe.
Hopefully, I get a chance to get inside Lords. I've passed through Lords. I never had the chance to go there. Ran out of money.
Haven't been there for a match.
Ran out of money. Couldn't go. Very expensive, Lords. Very expensive. Out of all the venues, I think Lords and the Oval was cheaper. The Lords was the most expensive.
Yeah, Chris will take you as a guest. He's a member, so he can come over, and I'm sure. I'm talking for Chris here. I shouldn't really do that, should I? But I'm allowed. He's been living with me for long enough. I can do that. I'm sure he could invite you up to Lords. It's a fantastic place to be. Yeah. Fantastic.
Indeed.
I'm very lucky. I've had enough opportunities there. I'm very lucky. I love the place.
It's four places on my bucket list before I die: Wellington, Melbourne, Lords, and I've already visited the Oval and Manchester, so that's there. Auckland, these 4 places.
What about SCG?
Sure, SCG would be a big bonus. Big bonus.
When you say Wellington, you talk about the Basin Reserve?
Basin.
That's an amazing ground. It's an amazing ground.
Yep. Yeah. Not the Cake Tin. I might like the Cake Tin, but I like the Basin a lot more.
No, the Cake Tin's it doesn't. It's pretty loud noise it makes there, but no.
Yeah. It was a rugby stadium, for crying out loud. Athletic Park. It was a rugby stadium.
The drop-in pitch normally, isn't it?
It is. Christchurch, Hagley Oval's beautiful, but their other home ground, what was it called? The one was
Lancaster Park.
Yeah, Lancaster Park was devastated by the earthquake.
Yeah, the earthquake. Yep.
And the stands, I don't know whether they've done anything to them, but the last time I was there, they were still there, and it's been closed off. You can't go in there. It's quite sad, actually.
That's sad, yeah.
So there's a word there being used by one of the fellows there, Albi Jijo, nepotism, related to the Indian scene. Now, what are we defining nepotism as in this case? Is it a form of arrogance or what are we talking when we use the word nepotism?
Nepotism in the Indian context is getting into the national side on the back of knowing a selector or knowing someone influential who can push your case through.
The job for the boys.
Despite lack of performances, if you still get pushed through, you get chances. That is nepotism.
Well, that's true, and that's a fair point.
I think there's a certain feeling in this country, by where our press portray it, that if you're good mates with Kohli, you've got a really good chance of not getting dropped out of the side.
That's pretty strong connection.
I would rather disagree with it.
Well,
Respectfully
yeah,
disagree
I'm
with
just
it.
saying that's the perception.
Yeah.
That Hardik Pandya got a lot of game time because he's really, and he might not be, but he's really good mates with Kohli and other players.
Because I will tell you one thing. I'll tell you one thing. The system in India is such that 11 players out of 130 crores can get a chance. Only 11. So the competition is intense. Even if you have nepotism, you will get caught out. Perform or perish. That is the new system in India. Perform or perish. If you cannot perform, you're shown the door. There are another 30 people waiting for you to immediately take your place. That's why you have 2 series simultaneously going on. Sri Lanka versus India, India versus England. The same happened with the Australians. We are all talking about India and Australia. Look at England's bench strength. The current second string, if I may call of Arjuna Ranatunga's comment, the second string England team can very well win the series against Pakistan. They've got that much great bench strength. So the question of nepotism does not arise at all. At all. In any context. Australia and England purely on merit, county performances, Sheffield Shield performances, and domestic performances. India, the system is like that now. IPL performances, domestic maybe to a lesser proportion. IPL performances, you're into the team. IPL is now the benchmark. In England, it is still the county system. That is the benchmark. In Australia, Marsh Cup, the Sheffield Shield, the Big Bash League, that's your criteria. No nepotism anymore. I mean, that's gone.
I think also Australia tends to start looking at the former players that play in the IPL too. There's an IPL.
Yeah. I mean, if I have to answer the nepotism question, Sachin Tendulkar's son Arjun Tendulkar should, if that fits in nepotism bill, he should be playing for India. But no, he's going through the grinds. Under 16, under 19, zonal cricket. If you're good enough, you can play. Otherwise, you may be even the president's son. You're not allowed, boss. You're not allowed.
There's a great maxim in cricket or a point of view in cricket that the captain should take onto the field the side he wants to take the field with. And it has changed over the years, but the selector's job used to be, and it's back in this way in our country now, that the selectors give the captain and the coach a squad of players. They pick a squad as a selector that they think are playing the best cricket, and then the captain and the coach select their 11 players from that. So the captain walks onto the field with the side he wants. And in my opinion, that's the right way. Now, that can be seen as nepotism, of course, because the captain will like specific players in his side. They might not be in great form always, but he knows that he can trust that player and he wants that player alongside him. But
maybe that may be called preferences. Preference. Maybe that is not nepotism. Nepotism is if you're holding to one guy, because he's not performing well for about 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, why are you holding on to this guy? That may be nepotism. Because there may be pressure. Oh, I've got a zonal, my selector, I have to hold on to my seat. I need this guy to perform. Maybe that is nepotism. Maybe. I don't know.
Sri Lanka, there is an element of that in Sri Lanka in a reverse manner, where certain players are not allowed back in rather than allowed in. Look, Sri Lanka's a mess. As long as I've known Sri Lanka, is a mess. The only time they got it right was when Dav Watmore was the coach, being half Sri Lankan, half Australian virtually, and seemed to get that bridge going between both the actual team and obviously the board. He was able to do that as coach. He was able to buffer that, and he let Arjuna go and let him prosper. Because it doesn't matter if Arjuna's team was playing now, they'd go nowhere because they wouldn't be allowed to dictate terms.
I mean, look at Dav Watmore's contribution. I mean, more than coaching Sri Lanka to greater success, he achieved unity with the Pakistan team in the aftermath of the spot fixing scandal. Misbah and Yunus, their making is credited to Dave Watmore's man management skill. Can you believe it? A Pakistan team that is so hell-bent on factionalism, right from the time of Imran Khan to Javed Miandad, they played together under Watmore. Can you imagine? Together under Watmore? That itself is a big miracle that he achieved.
Can I ask you a question, Bob Woolmer? What the hell happened there? That's still never been truly uncovered. What actually happened to his death? And that period was the most bizarre period of Pakistan history.
Very tragic, very tragic. But yeah, a lot of theories have been explored. Like he earned the ire of the match-fixing cartel syndicate, and they apparently would have finished him off. That's a theory, but there is no concrete proof as to what happened because the Jamaican police botched up the investigation totally. They botched it up. But more than that, Bob Woolmer, I think he didn't have the luck of the draw, frankly, in his favor. Because when he was the coach of the South African team, the Aussies were all powerful. The Aussies got under his skin tremendously. Because I think one more person got the discipline under, one more Bob. And we don't mention him that often in Australian circles. Bob Simpson. I think one of the most unheralded geniuses that you had in Australia, luckily at that time.
Sure.
Bob Simpson, one of the best managers I've ever seen in cricketing history.
Go back to Pakistan for a moment. Jeff Lawson was a coach there and was heavily involved. Jeff speaks highly of that place. Mike Whitney speaks highly of that place. They've had a lot of good charm about the coaches that have been involved there, international coaches, I'm saying. They've had great relationships. But Bob Woolmer's one went haywire. I don't know.
I don't know what happened. Yeah. Really sad. Really sad.
I have a lot of time for Pakistan. I think they've especially, I don't know whether I'm right in saying this, but Lahore's a different kettle of fish to the rest of Pakistan. Lahore's very much Indian-like, if there's ever a comparison, because Lahore and Amritsar are so damn close.
Yeah, just 30 minutes away.
Can you believe that? Richard, they're so close, they're really one town.
Yeah.
It's the most...
In fact, I can happily say I went to Pakistan. I crossed over from Wagah, went into Lahore. For 2 minutes, I went back to India. It's that close.
It is. It's not even a day trip. It's a half-day trip.
Just half an hour away from the Wagah border. It's
Incredible.
Just half an hour away to Lahore.
Incredible.
Yeah. I've told you before, Norman, I live closer to France than I do to London. And I'm in the southeast of the country. London's in the southeast of the country as well. But I'm closer to France, where I live. It's just over the water.
Yep.
That's incredible. Yeah.
I'm very close to France. The English Channel isn't very wide. It's not very wide at all.
It's not.
And the channel goes right underneath, right where you are, basically, doesn't it? It goes basically, it heads under that part of the world, isn't it? Is that where the tunnel goes?
Yeah. Sorry. The tunnel's close to where I live. Yeah. Folkestone. Dover.
Yeah. We used to earlier go by catamaran from Amsterdam to Dover. The catamaran boat used to go from there, but now it's, I think, the Eurorail has come about there.
The channel.
I was once on what appeared to be a tugboat from bloody Le Havre in France all the way to Ireland. That was the most sickening trip I've ever taken. It was like this. It was like that. Oh, it was crazy.
Oh,
go man up, Norman. You're.
Oh, that was vomit material. That was. Oh God, that was a classic.
I've been on the Manly Ferry, Norman. I can cope with all that.
Well, Manly Ferry's only a split second. That was a 14-hour overnight or 17-hour ordeal. Never forget.
My goodness.
That cost about £1.
Manly Beach have swimming trunks with Manly written on the front.
Trust me, I think I had green cordial. I've got a photograph of me vomiting the green cordial, projectiling off the boat. Awful.
I don't know this question, Norman. The ones that this guy keeps putting up about Trisang was cheated by the BCI. I don't know. I don't know anything about it.
What's the story with Trisang? He was an enigma, wasn't he? He was quite a character.
Yeah, quite a character. And he managed to make Dhoni lose his cool. He managed to make Dhoni lose his cool a lot. In 2013, he was caught in that IPL spot fixing scandal. In 2013, 3 Rajasthan Royals players, Sri Lanka was one of them. they were accused of leaking a particular runs as agreed with one bookie. Like, I will give away 10 runs. And he did that. So he was caught. There was immense investigation. There was immense surveillance over this. So 3 players were caught. Srishant was handed a life ban, but it was overturned. He's now back. And he's playing.
How old is he now?
He's close to 39. Gale and Fidel Edwards' age. But still
And
going
Dhoni,
strong.
Dhoni's 40 now, of course.
Yeah.
Federer's
Look, all the old guys, look, all the old guys are doing well. Okay. In defense to Richard, I will just say this. Anderson has taken 1,000 wickets at the age of 40. Federer reached the quarterfinals of Wimbledon for the 19th time at the age of 40. So old is truly gold. But yeah, he didn't make it to the semis. That's because Federer set the benchmark so high. But look, if you Misbah played till the age of 42 and he helped them win in West Indies, why not?
So could Srishant go and play for the West Indies? He could go and qualify and go and play with Gale and Pollard.
The BCCI will not give him an NOC. The BCCI will not give him an NOC for
Andy
that.
Roberts is going to play next week against the Australians, I think, as well as Griffith and
Michael Holding.
Well, I mean, Trinidad and Tobago is very Indian-centric.
Everton Weeks
a lot of
is going to
Indians,
play.
a lot of expat Indians, a lot of, ancestral Indians that live in Trinidad. Correct?
More in Tobago. And Guyana.
But Trinidad and Tobago, they're islands away from each other.
Yeah. Sure. Shiranayan Chandrapal's son, Tanganayan, he studied in Delhi University.
He's got to be 41 now, isn't he? His age is
Chandler's 44.
Yeah. So I can't read the question, no one. Read it out for me.
Do you want to ask? Okay. Please take this question. I want to hear from the experts. Why does India have a good record at Trent Bridge? And what is special, and why the Melbourne and Trent Bridge are happy hunting grounds? Well, when we say Melbourne for India, Melbourne win a lot of tests in India?
Yep, for India.
Well,
if I have to answer that, India have always batted well in Trent Bridge. Always batted well. They've had contributions, right, if you have to look at it from 96 onwards. Ganguly hit a ton, Dravid hit 80 in 96 to save them. Tendulkar hit a big ton. The key here is a big ton. In 2002, Dravid hit a century. Whenever India have hit a century, or they have, or some of their key players have contributed as a unit, they have won. 2007, no one hit a century, but there was an all-round contribution. Tendulkar hit a 50, Dhoni hit a 50. It was Zahir Khan who did the damage in 2007 with the ball. Left armour.
What a play. Love Zahir.
Yeah.
2014.
He got it up there, didn't he, Zahir Khan?
Indeed he did. And 2014, there were more hundreds. 2018, Pujara scored 100 there. So that is where, if any Indian player does well, there is no collapse, then they do well in that venue. Trent Bridge seems to be like that. Same with Melbourne. And by the way, Melbourne is not a happy hunting ground. If I have to look at history, you only won there 2 times in a row, in 2018 and 2020. Before that, you didn't even win for 37 years, for crying out loud, in Melbourne. You've just started winning now. So it's not a happy hunting ground. None of the grounds in Australia are happy hunting grounds for India, maybe with the exception of Adelaide. But you got shot out for 36 even there. So there is no happy hunting ground.
SCG is usually a pretty good ground.
No, but we haven't won at the SCG for 40 years, Norman.
Yeah, but you play well still. You may not always. I mean, you've had a number of draws there as well.
You drew in 92. You lost in 99. You drew in 2004. You lost in 2008. I will say lost because Australia played with 14 players. We played with 11. The umpires were there.
Ooh. But then you won an 18. 18 you won there.
No, we didn't win in 18. We drew in 18. Rain in 2018.
But effectively, you won the series there.
We won the series, yeah. Because we won in Adelaide, the opening game. That was not a pink ball test.
No.
We lost in Perth. But we won in Melbourne, thanks to Jasprit Bumrah. And we drew in Sydney. 2020 also, we escaped with a draw in Sydney. Let me be very honest.
But they may have been draws, but they were victories as far as I'm concerned. They celebrated like victories in both cases.
Yeah. we've only won in Adelaide twice this whole 40-year period. We won in Melbourne twice. Oh yeah, we won in Perth, but that was our first and only win in Perth in 2008.
And then
Wacka.
Gabba, you certainly won in Gabba.
Yep, that was our first win. First win ever at the Gabba.
Doesn't matter. It's first. It's the current last win.
You're playing Bumrah in the first test, I assume, at Trent Bridge, because Norman's sending him home never to play for India again.
I didn't say that.
Norman's putting him out in the long grass.
I want Siraj in the side. That's what
instead of Bumrah. It's not going to happen, is it?
No, difficult. You need your gun bowler. Bumrah, maybe because it was his first test in a very long time. I mean, he didn't bowl particularly well after Melbourne. Remember, he was even carrying an injury in Sydney. He missed Brisbane. In the England test, you don't need a pacer to really set the stage on fire. So you have to play Bumrah, play Siraj, maybe drop Ishant, maybe.
Ooh.
But again, dropping Ishant, you dropping your most experienced bowler. Either drop Shami, but Shami was very effective in Southampton.
Virat loves Shami. Virat loves Shami. Nepotism. It'll be playing.
Either you play only one spinner. Play only one spinner in Ashwin. Have Siraj, Shami, Ishant, Bumrah.
Can't.
That's your
the tail. Look at the tail.
But even then, Richard, you look at it, we played with 8. You still collapsed. You didn't play to your strength in Southampton.
I don't see them going in with 5 batsmen, a slogger at 6 and Ashwin at 7 and a long tail.
But the top order do what they're supposed to be doing. You shouldn't have to rely on the bowlers. I struggle with that thought, because if your batters are batting well enough, you shouldn't need anything beyond 7 and 8. Let's be honest. So really, you should be able to play. West Indians played 4 fast bowlers who couldn't bat. Australia probably did it.
Great. That sounds great in theory. But you know and I know that the great sides who ever got to number 1, the number 1 sides, and I'll talk only for it hasn't happened to us very often, but when England were at number 1 a few years ago, it was based on their bottom 5 batters were averaging about 50 or 60, the highest in the world by miles at that time for the bottom batsmen. That was Pryor and Swan and...
Broad.
Sorry?
Even Broad.
Yeah, and they were contributing on average around about 50 to 60 for the bottom 5 wickets, whereas no one else in world cricket was averaging anywhere near it. And
but it's funny, but Dennis Lilly, Jeff Thompson, Max Worker were crap batters, but they seemed to get runs because they knew they were bowling so well they can be freer with their batting.
I mean, if I have to extend Richard's point, I mean, you look at even the bowling for England at that time, Anderson and Broad. But who was the one who created the maximum pressure for them? It was Graham Swan. When Swan went, England's bowling went to pieces because they didn't have someone to have that pressure thing. We all underestimate Graham Swan, but England's prime factor for being number 1 was the Graham Swan factor. His spin, his accuracy was deadly. For the first time,
he bowled to get wickets. He bowled to get wickets, didn't he?
Brilliant. I mean, Graham Swan was brilliant.
We haven't replaced him.
You don't have a spinner. Australia luckily had Nathan Lyon because you also struggled to fill that gap left by Vaughan. But of course, filling up Shane Warne's absence, it may never ever happen. That's
someone like Zampa, if given a go in a test match, could be a worthwhile inclusion. But they've never given him a go. He's won
because of Lyon. Really good.
Because of Nathan Lyon. Nathan Lyon.
No, that's right. But I mean, Adam Zampa has got a test spark about him. Even Maxwell, you would argue as well.
Yeah,
could have easily have done well. No.
Because see, England, if they have to be number one, they have to rely on their 3-4. Because I would look at the England bowling lineup for Trent Bridge. It would be Anderson and Broad, without a shadow of a doubt, because they have got excellent records in Trent Bridge, especially Anderson. I would go with Mark Wood. You need the hit-to-deck bowler for the 4th and the 5th day.
They will go Wood and Stokes.
Yeah, then Wokes. Then you have Stokes as your 5th bowling option. You even have Moeen.
Won't play. Moeen won't be in the squad.
Why?
Moeen, he's not played Test cricket. He played one game in the winter, did he? Maybe he's not seen. see, Leach is the number one spinner.
Leach.
But
But will they have place for Leach?
Well, they can't, not if you're going to go with Broad, Anderson, Woods, Stokes, and Wokes. You can't have Leach as well. There's no room.
There's no room.
So
either you drop Wood and get in Leach, or drop, but you can't drop Wokes. He gives you buffer till number 7.
Be a massive handful for India. You just take my word. He is going to be a big problem. He bowled brilliantly against Sri Lanka. I know Sri Lanka weren't very good, but that he was bowling.
He was in rhythm.
Who are you talking? Dominic Bess or Leach?
No, not Dombas. Not Dombas. Leach. Leach is the number 1
spinner. They won't pick another. They might have another one in the 16. Leach is the guy in possession. He's good. Leach is all right, but they haven't played the spinner against New Zealand. They didn't put a spinner in. They played the seamers. Spinner. That's
where they lost. That's where they lost that Edgbaston test.
Possibly.
You needed variety, and of course, I may add that England's batsmen didn't play pretty well. The traditional test match way.
Their spinner didn't do too much. He
got Root's wicket.
He did, yeah. He's got every right to.
The spinner was one small factor, but I think England's batsmen. I mean, after Root, who has scored a 50 for them?
Burns got a big 100 in the first test.
Yeah. Apart from Burns, who else? No one.
No,
they really are struggling.
The batting was poor. Lawrence did a little bit in one of the games, but I don't see him playing. I don't see him getting in.
Please not RCB. Please not RCB.
Okay. Please not RCB. And always they're two. I mean, quickly ask you just on the IPL, what's happening with all the players? Are they getting back the international players that they want or not? Are they not going?
We have no clue about that. We have no clue. Because look, the England and Australian players, 80% of them, they may not make it to the IPL for 2 reasons. Number 1, England's players are going, after the India series, they're going to Bangladesh and Pakistan. England are obliged to tour Pakistan because of what Pakistan's done for them. They've toured the country so many times, even during the pandemic. That's why they have been rewarded in this World Test Championship cycle as well. Number 1. Number 2, after the IPL is finished, you have the World T20. After the World T20, you have the Ashes. The gap is not so much.
But because IPL and the World Cup are so close,
3 days.
Wouldn't it be advisable to be still there? Why wouldn't you want to be playing before that? Why wouldn't you want to be playing?
Would you want to get fatigued for a 5-test Ashes? Because I'm telling you, in England and Australia's focus is not on the World T20, it's the Ashes. It's clearly the Ashes. England have much more of a point to prove.
IPL is money.
Yeah, but Ashes is the cricket.
Norman. The Ashes is the focus.
But Pat Cummins will play IPL. Warner will play IPL, I'm pretty sure.
But Smith has said he may not.
Yeah, but he's just trying to get the captaincy back. That's why he's bunging all that rubbish on.
Because again, look, the gap of cricket is so small. 3 days after the England tour is done, your IPL will be played potentially from September 19th to October 14th. That's the window that you have. 3 days later, you play the World T20. That ends by November 14th.
That's incredible. 3 days. That means there'll be a lot of Indian players that will be in the same boat.
It's 8th December. With the quarantine rules, with every other thing, how will you manage the logistics? How will you maintain the fitness?
It's the first test, 2nd of December. Is that what you say? Is it 2nd December?
8th December. 8th December.
Yeah. What do you mean, the Ashes test?
Yeah. The Ashes first test in Brisbane.
But don't forget there's a November test between Australia and Afghanistan too.
Yeah, but I think the Australian bowlers are not playing in the IPL. I mean, I don't know about Pat, but Mitchell Starc is not. He will play. Nathan Lyon is not playing.
No, but Pat Cummins will. Trust me, he will. He's just bought a $9.5 million house in Bronte.
But again,
he needs a couple of million.
Will his fitness hold? Because imagine IPL, 3 days later, World T20. After that, you play 5-test Ashes. 5 tests is a massive toll on your body. It takes a big toll.
Sure.
And I cannot imagine, because both England and Australia will be determined. Australia did not make it to the World Test Championship. They will want to do well in the Ashes. England have not won in 10 years there. They definitely want to get the monkey off their back. And this might
We're
very
not
well
gonna win
be
this time
Anderson's
either.
last Ashes, let me tell you.
We're not going to win this time either.
Yeah. Your batting has to click. England's batsmen have to click.
Rory
For that,
Burns, Zach Crawley, Darwin Milan. There's your top three. That's your winning top three.
Root, Butler, Stokes, Wokes.
Yeah.
7. And then you have Anderson, Broad, Wood. For an Australian pitch, why don't you play Mark Wood more often? He's your hit the deck bowler.
The
Actually,
reason
Ollie
they don't
Stone
play
because of his height. Ollie Stone because of his height too.
No, the Wood's very straightforward. He's got big injury problems. He's always had injury problems, and they manage him. He's played more in recent times than he ever had in the past, and that's because they've managed him. But he's great. Do you watch him play? Apparently the nicest, happiest bloke. He makes everyone laugh in the changing rooms constantly, and he plays with a smile on his face all the time.
Yeah. And imagine to have such pace and such hostility from such a short run-up. Remarkable.
I think he set a recent record, didn't he, against New Zealand? He bowled the longest sustained spell by an England bowler ever. He clocked 5 overs in a row, all in the 90s. Every delivery was 90 plus.
Can you imagine? I mean, Richard, can you imagine? What if Mark Wood has the same impact that Mitchell Johnson had in 2013?
Yeah.
Same hit the deck bowler, no swing, but right here. Can't he do that? I think Wood is capable of it.
In the winter, he will be in the Ashes, and they will need him to play 3 tests. I would imagine. Well, Perth, they'll need him at Perth, won't they?
They'll need him in Brisbane. They'll need him in Perth.
Yeah,
in Brisbane and
Perth. Gabba.
Yep.
Well, yeah. The problem is how many. That's consecutive games, and it depends on where they are. Melbourne's different. Broad and Anderson might do the business a little bit more at Melbourne, might they not?
Broad and Anderson will do the business in Adelaide, the ping ball test. That's no problem.
Well, don't tell me about.
But again, I don't know, Norman. But my feeling about the new Perth Stadium is not that great. It's a typical concrete bowl.
I hate it. I hate it with a passion. The Wacker was the quintessential test ground.
Yeah.
Why would you ever not want to play? I mean, AFL, the Aussie Rules Football, has determined a stadium will be built. Well, let them play AFL there. Let's keep it the Wacker. They made a mistake there.
But again, I think capacity issues.
Yeah, but it's still a lovely ground. It's I'm very saddened about the Wacker. That was a beautiful.
Norman, does Melbourne, the MCG, also host AFL games?
Absolutely.
That's where the drop-in pitch in Melbourne has impacted so much of the results. Have they always been hosting AFL games?
Yes, absolutely. Has a history as long as cricket does, actually. In fact, AFL was played, I think, before cricket. AFL goes back to the 1840s, 1850s, no, even earlier than that. It's quite an old, only in Victoria. The Wacker, Adelaide, Perth, Adelaide, Melbourne, and even Brisbane now are all drop-in pitches. It's only the SCG that's not.
But didn't SCG host rugby?
Yeah, because the ground right next door, it'll be completed by early next year, which is a football stadium, was where they normally play all the rugby. They've moved there, but that's under construction, rebuilt. Okay. It's 2/3, 3/4 finished. So they had to play in the SCG in the interim. But because of COVID, they're not playing anywhere near the SCG.
Because I'll tell you why I remember the SCG for rugby. Because in 1979, Australia won the Bledisloe Cup for the first time. They beat the All Blacks there. So
it's probably been that long since they won again, I think. But the SCG is SCG. Like, I meant to have a game between the Australian Wallabies and France 2 nights ago, but they moved it out of Sydney. It's everything's moved out of Sydney at the moment. It's terrible.
Yeah.
And you know what they say? It's really, that's what annoys me. They go, the game's been moved to Newcastle. They don't tell you it's been moved from the SCG Newcastle. They think marketing wise, if you don't mention that it's been moved from the SCG, it doesn't sound as bad. But we're not idiots. We all know that it's been moved from the SCG, but media will specifically say it's been moved to Newcastle, but they won't say moved from the SCG. That's ridiculous. That's not good marketing. That's just placing more emphasis on the fact that it's moved from the SCG, if you ask me. So, all right, we've gone quite a while, guys. So we had a great day, and I think
far too long, Norman. I'd only just got in from work when you messaged me. I've not had anything to eat or drink. This is disgraceful.
Well, I come out of a mother bubble, so to speak, so I had to deal with that first. All right, guys, we might finish up there, guys. It's been fantastic. We've got 2.5 hours here. Siddharth's been on for a while. Of course, Richard has been. We've had Munchie for a while. We had even Gil for a while. So, guys, thank you very much for your time.
I need to ask
really
you one question, Norman. One question. Can I just ask you one quick question? Siddharth, is it coming home?
Yes.
It's coming home.
I think this is your time. It is.
It's coming home. Come on.
We're gonna have a show for that. We're gonna have a show. I don't know when, but we're gonna have a show.
But English and football is very funny. You replace the H with an R, it will say it's going to Rome.
Yes, they've been saying it. Going to Rome. It's going Rome. Yeah, I know.
English is a very, very funny language, I'm telling you. But looking at it, see, it's home advantage. You've not won for 55 years. I think this is the time. If it's not now, it can be never.
We got some good players. We're not just grinding out little bad results, just scraping it. We're playing well.
No, you're winning confidently. That's the best part.
Well. Against Denmark the other night.
Yeah.
We played some good football in that.
I mean, look, see, Norman, it took England 44 years to win the first World Cup in cricket.
Yeah.
Now in Euro, they can win it in 55 years. They can do it. Let's not
win anything. In anything. I've seen this win a Rugby World Cup, a 2020 World Cup, a Cricket World Cup. That's it. I've never
I cannot imagine how you guys lost the 2019 World Cup final. I mean, the Rugby World Cup I'm talking about. The Rugby World Cup. How could you lose to that South African team? That South African team who were trashed by the All Blacks in the league game. I just can't believe it.
It was South Africa played well. They deserved it. They
do.
You know.
But, yeah.
See,
for me, there is normalcy. There is normalcy in the world if South Africa lose in any major tournament in the semis or the finals. For me, that the world is normal. If they go to the final or if they win, I think there's something wrong with the universe.
Lance Klusner does not deserve to be on the losing side in that game. He was brilliant, wasn't he, Klusner, Norman? Come on. He was brilliant.
But come on, I was backing the Aussies on that day. So I'm glad that they went through.
But the 19 World Cup was great to win. England won that. That was quite an incredible day. I had the best day. That was phenomenal. Where were you on that day, Richard?
On the World Cup final?
Yeah.
I was watching it at home.
Was Chris at home? Was he there?
No, Chris wasn't. I don't think Chris was here. I don't think. Not sure where he was. He might have been playing, of course. Because it's our summer.
I played him only a few days before that. But I don't know whether he went because I was there that day.
He wasn't at the final. He wasn't at Lord's. He definitely wasn't there.
Well, I was with Monty Panesar and Rena and Lena Dutta, these two sisters.
Yeah, that was quite an atmosphere then, Norman, wasn't it?
That was amazing. I had a guy had a heart attack right next to me, and they had to get an ambulance onto the field at one end.
Is that because you sat on him, Norman?
No. That was underneath the JP Morgan Media Centre, just directly below. I was down there, and they had to pull the pull right when the game was finishing. It was pandemonium all around me. Security were there and ambulances and everything right at that point.
I've got a very, very, very quick story. I was very lucky that a friend of mine was a big media correspondent back in the day, and we're going back probably about 10 years. And we're invited up to Lord's to go and see a game, and he was working at the day, and he invited me up into the media centre during an England one-day game, which was I had to get a pass and everything, but you're generally not allowed in. And I was able to go up and go in the media centre, and he invited me to stand at the back of the Test match special box just for a couple of. Yeah, I know. I was honoured. I felt, and I just stand there very quietly in the corner. And Ian Botham was on at the time because the Sky box is next door to the TMS box. It's done next door. So I was able to sort of see Botham in the next room. There's a glass screen, and listen to the TMS going on only for 5 minutes. Not going to big myself up too much. I wasn't there for a couple of hours, but it was honoured. I was honoured.
Did you meet Aggers? Did you meet Aggers there?
Only I saw him. I didn't. I would be lying to you say if I met him personally. But NASA was there, and all the journalists, and
Wow.
very honoured to do that during a game. So yeah,
Awesome.
great thing.
That's a level above where the print media is. There's that little staircase.
Yeah, the print media's got this like massive. It's like almost like an airport hangar, almost like a lounge of these open desks, and then you go up and round, up to the box, and they're like little cubicles. They're done as like little.
That's right.
Little cubicles.
Yep.
So it was great. I was very, very lucky indeed that day.
Hope I can get there someday.
Yeah, I'm sure you will.
Well, I was caught in the media lift on the way down with both Vaughan and what's his name, Damien Martin, and Jonathan Norman. All right, guys, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much, guys. I'll have a show on tomorrow, the next few days for sure. So we might go pre the Pakistan India match, Pakistan England match.
That's
Australia, West Indies, a number of things.
Is this your longest stream, Norman? I'm seeing comments. This is the longest stream in Iceland.
No, it's not. We've had a couple that have gone longer for sure.
We were longer on Monday, Norman, weren't we? 2 hours and 45.
At least. I think I've got one was about 3.
Expect a delayed start tomorrow, Norman, at Lords. The weather forecast is for rain in the morning. Now, Lords is a great drying. They've relayed, it's got undersoil, drainage and everything. So they will, I'm sure they'll get something in. But if it buckets down all morning, I would imagine there'll be a delay. So it starts. Just so you know, it's supposed to be 11 o'clock start. That seems unlikely with the weather forecast as is predicted. That's
so 11 o'clock start is 8 o'clock my time, isn't it? I think.
It's a day nature, right? It's a day match.
Day match, 11 o'clock start.
Yeah, 3:30 here. It'll be 8 o'clock there for you.
Yeah, but don't be surprised if it's delayed. Anyone who's watching, I mean, you can never know with the weather in this country, but if the forecast is for overnight and early morning, lots of rain.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, surprise, England.
Yeah. All right, guys.
Thanks very much. Thank you very much for having me.
Really appreciate having you on.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Thank you. Ciao.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.
Ciao. Bye. I'm staying on. I'm still alive. I like doing monologue these days to that.
I mean, it's tough getting into a monologue. I'm sure about it.
I'm going to do monologue.
Yeah. I mean, because there's nothing happening on cricket, and I'm busy with my Olympic stuff, so it's very difficult for me.
We're still live.
Yeah.
All right, so thank you very much. I really appreciate you coming on. Every time you're on, it's brilliant. You're a great champion.
Thank you, Norman.
Ciao. I'm very blessed, guys. I've got both the likes of Munchie now joining us, obviously Richard, Chris Verma's father, who's both very knowledgeable people, Siddharth, Gill, 2 Indian legends. A lot of other blokes will come on later. I can't bring them on all the time. So I'm very happy with this show. Indeed, it was a great show. It was very long. I'm not finishing. I've got a bit of talking to do. I just want to make it clear when I talk about certain players, what I feel it's my opinion. It's not necessarily everybody else's opinion. A lot of the stuff is opinion based. We like to give our opinion on the show, as it's a platform where you can actually, get the truth. Yeah, people who don't subscribe, it's a good point. Again, there's my Instagram and my Twitter. Please just tick away. Join or follow, whatever the term is. As far as the YouTube channel is concerned, it's something that only 5 to 10% of people that actually watch also subscribe. So please, if you haven't hit the subscribe button, please do. It doesn't take much if you've got to log in and subscribe. I know it's a bit of an effort, but please do it. Okay. All right. And don't forget, we'll also be looking at the membership levels. I've put a video up there only recently, which had some very interesting street talk that members will see. So subscribe. If you have a group of people that you deal with on a regular basis, share it to them by way of WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, you name it. Just share it, please. It'd be great if you could do that. That'd be an excellent thing to do. because it helps the channel. We're here for a long time. Have a good chat to you guys. It's very important to me that I get as much content. Thank you so much, Norman. Love being part of the show, and that's the beauty of the show. We bring out people's best characters. Richard's amazing fellow. Son's also been amazing for a long, long time. We've had many episodes, some 14 episodes of an Aussie and a Pom talk all things cricket in India, and that's one of the major themes we've got. As I think I said earlier, I'm not sure that I may have mentioned that too, by the way, guys. We have a situation where we have, let me have a look here. Just to let you know, this is the 592nd video. 592nd in 6 months. 413 have been recorded and uploaded, and this is the 179th live. We're saying back with Buri Majundu at first. We've reached 179. So when I reach 200, I'll try and get Buri on for the 200th. Whereas Chris, he's been called up for England team after COVID breakout. No, he hasn't, Gary Bunker. He's busy playing cricket all over the place. He's playing in Scotland. He's playing all over the world. And his dad's got the stage now, so I think he's been quite polite. But I think Chris is going to come on either tomorrow night or Sunday night. I think that's what we're going to be doing with Chris. All right, so they'll be coming on those nights. So Chris is not very far away from being on as well. And yeah, this is a great sense of achievement, guys. So thank you very much for this. So any questions, guys? And any questions you'd like to ask of me? We've hit a good solid hit out today. Any questions? I'll answer. This is a little bit of a question and answer period. Any questions for me? Any questions for me? Well, I'll be going then, why not? The South Sydney Rabbitohs won 46-18. They're third in the competition. Going really well, and with the big chances here. Bangladesh were all out for 468, with Zimbabwe all out for 276, and in their second innings, Bangladesh already none for 34. And two young openers, Shadman Islam, who's played 8 matches, and Saif Hassan are both there. They've only played a small amount of matches together. All right, so we might end it there, guys. Bunchy is awful, though. Bunchy is not awful. He's nice, Bunch there. All right, guys. No more questions for me. We might end up. So don't forget, we've got Australia versus West Indies tomorrow. We've got the second match of the England-Pakistan series. We've got the Bangladesh-Zimbabwe test still following. There's 3 matches. Sri Lanka, India is some 3 odd days away. That's 4 series. And we've got, I don't know whether Pakistan, I'm not sure whether the likes of South Africa do anything at the moment. I don't think they are. But there's a fair bit going on at the moment in the world, that's for sure. All right, guys. We might call. If you ask me questions, I'll answer them. Just giving you a few minutes of a monologue where I talk about, again, Australia, West Indies starts tomorrow. England, Pakistan. Sri Lanka, India, not very far away. Ash Barty playing for Australia in the Women's World Cup, not World Cup, Women's Wimbledon final. First time in 41 years we've had an Australian there. Yvonne Goolagong was the last. And of course, Monday is the big one, England versus Italy in the football, UEFA, European Championship League, whatever it is called. I'm not sure. It's got so many names. England's first time in 55 years, since 1966. I can give you my predictions for the. Are you talking about for the England India Test series? I think actually 3-2 India. I'm being positive for India. I think 3-2. They're going to win the first one. There'll be no draws. Why is the team vacationing in England? Why not? Why no practice? Yeah, I don't know. They probably. I thought they could play in Ireland. Well, I guess they could have. But I thought they were meant to be playing. I'm not sure. England 2 with 1 draw going into the 5th test. So it'll be a very close one. Yeah, I don't know why they're not playing. Yeah, they're all going to Wimbledon. I saw Ashwin today went to, I think he was at Wimbledon. Pretty sure he was in Wimbledon. Pretty sure I saw Ashwin in Wimbledon. Yeah, Ashwin was in Wimbledon last time. So, thank you all guys for joining today. I do appreciate it. And we'll go from there. Let's see what that works. Still kind of works. All right. Manu, John, where have you been? Ashwin went to Wimbledon. Yeah, yes, we saw that. Where have you been? Asked Manu, John. We've been here all day and you haven't been here watching other channels, have you? I haven't seen you on once. Roger, you saw, you sure? Yeah, Ashwin saw Roger Federer. I know, I've got a photograph of that. Your predictions, Don, I've already given them to you. I've already given my predictions. You mean for Wimbledon, Ash Barty? For England versus Italy, you'd have to. England have to win that in the football. Then you got, I think West Indies will beat Australia, and England will beat Pakistan. I'm afraid to say again. Bangladesh will knock off Zimbabwe, and India will, as I said, 3-2 against England. Sri Lankan tour is scheduled from 17th, 18th. Where did you see that written? Who's first choice? Well, Samson's there, but it does look like Ishan Kishan might be the keeper. It's hard to say. Ishan Kishan or Samson, but it looks like Ishan Kishan. Will easily win. Well, Wimbledon, yes, I would think so, and Wimbledon at the Ash Barty. I want to know more about this. Can someone confirm this? Swaraj Shawan said that the Sri Lankan tour has been rescheduled from the 17th and 18th of this month, so not the 13th. Is that what you're saying? Where does it say that? I don't remember that being. So I haven't seen that. Something that I'll have to go up and check. Where have you seen that? Where have you seen that? Can you tell me where you saw that? Sports Tac News. Is that where you've just seen it? Okay. Well, that's interesting. I'll have to look that up because it may well be the case. There's no mention of it anywhere else in the news. Let me look at the news. There's no mention of it. Okay, we've got to find that out if that's the case. Wimbledon. Well, men's Djokovic, obviously, and Ash Barty, obviously. Sports Tech. Could you actually? Chahal, Kuldeep, Dura back in action. I think they will be. Who was the first? I already mentioned that. Sports Tech. If Swaraj, Shawan, if you can please tell me where they've said that, because I haven't seen any evidence of that at all. Also, quick buzz. Can you send me that link? Can you send that to my Swaraj Shawan? You got my Instagram. My Instagram is here at Norm Koch. Can you send the link to my Instagram, please, to confirm that? Because I haven't heard that yet. So that's something that I'd like to find out more about. I'm in a mood to keep talking, guys. It's a bit of a worry. If someone can tell me where that says, because I'm on Sports Tech, I'll look at Sports Tech. Generally, Sports Tech are pretty much there on my phone. Let's have a look. Sports Tech. Sports Tech, of course, is in Hindi. Let's have a look. I'm not sure. I'm trying to find where Sports Tech is. Sports Tech. Let's see. Agenda, Sports Tech, just Sri Lanka positive. There's been a positive test in the Sri Lankan, obviously. So, coach, a batting coach, and the Sri Lanka video analysts positions have been both placed positive. So that might delay the whole thing. That's a bit of a worry. It's certainly a bit of a worry. So that's the latest we're getting. We're getting obviously from Sports Tech and various people that the batting coach from Sri Lanka and the video analyst are both testing positive. Maybe Sri Lankan cricket will have a better. They normally have a pretty good handle on this. Let's have a look what they've got to say. Sri Lanka cricket. I'm just looking at it. Reminiscing of Hashink. No comments about. There's been no mention about the whole thing. There hasn't been any mention of that. So it's breaking news. They haven't uploaded videos. Okay. Well, then it should be on the community channel. All discussion about good old Lasith Malinga and his bowling technique, but nothing about the actual thing. So maybe there's something I haven't heard of yet. What is the benefit of joining the channel? Do you mean in terms of membership or in terms of just subscriber? Pratyush Roy, are you a subscriber or not? Just tell me. If you're not a subscriber, you should do that at least. To become a member, we're eventually going to be meeting all the people that you've got as hosts here. There'll be private Zoom conferences with the hosts, with their ex-players, current players, wherever we've got on the show. You get exclusive videos, which is specifically for members. Now, there's one uploaded now, which is a very, very important street talk with a very important man of history. So that's the reason for joining. The join button. The join button is, in fact, membership. So you go from subscriber, which is what you should be at the very minimum. Membership is above that. You get a hold of merchandise. You get things like merchandise like that, or this here, cups, which we have, which has got here an Aussie and a Pom talk all things cricket in India. I should try and take a photograph of that, actually. Let's see if I can do that. Pretty hard to make a photograph of yourself doing it, but I'll try. There we go. So this eventually we'll get more and more access. When we eventually go to India, we'll have dinners and lunches and events where you'll be able to be seen doing that, and that's great. See, it's like a community. Yeah, broken out in Sri Lanka. We know that we've got the situation with what appears to be the batting coach and the video editor, video analyst, and if they've got it, that's going to be probably hard to stop it there. I think there'll be quite a few players that will have it. So if it's the Delta strain, so we'll find out more about that. If it has been delayed, that's going to be rather dramatic to a lot of reasons, actually. All right. Any more questions, guys? So I'm here to answer questions. That's what I'm doing here, guys. So ask me questions. I'm going to be uploading while we're talking. I'm still waiting on that. To show up quite a few. All right. So if we can find out more information about this whole it certainly was a great broadcast there. So marathon discussion is what I'm writing here. If you go to my okay, all right, so that's it. All right, let's have a look at what else we've got going on here. In terms of there's not much else to talk about, guys. We might actually finish up now, getting very close to 3 hours. So we had Siddharth. Who do we have on the show? We had Richard. Munchie, if you're still there, Munchie, would you please send me a Marcus? All right. Is Virat Kohli a Test great? Well, when a player is still playing for his country, it's hard to call him a Test great. Greats, legends, usually have to finish their career to be given that status. Virat Kohli will definitely be a short form of cricket great. Test great. He's certainly reaching that spot. A few years to go before we can perhaps stand out in that categorisation, but I think he's pretty close. Of course. There's some Gurkha right. Gill. So is Virat Kohli great? It's a pretty good question, but I would argue he's very close to it in test level. You're talking about ODIs and T20s. Clearly, no doubt about that he would be classified as that. So I would agree with that being the case. Well, this is, you're talking about membership. This is a chance to talk to me, guys. Ask me questions. Let's try and get this over here. Let's get this over here. There we go. The Seaboard book. It's part of the ability to go and speak to these people, ask these people questions, is a great thing. I like that photograph. It's worthy of a cup, I reckon. Trying to get reasons to have cups. All right, here we go. Good this question. Doesn't England's situation reflect hypocrisy of Western media? If it was in any other country, England were on other side, the tour would have been cancelled. A lot of dirt would have been thrown at the hosts. Yeah, it is interesting. There's the whole Bible stuff has been, well, look at the whole England side. The whole England side lost. They lost the entire squad, including the coach. It's going to, well, effectively, Sri Lanka had the video analyst and the batting coach. That should be completely taken out. In India, they lost quite a few players. They should have taken that out as well. You know, they did stop the IPL at that point, though, didn't they? They stopped the IPL, so they did take affirmative action. England lost the entire squad. Sri Lanka will probably have to lose their squad too if they're band together. Natarajan, the World Cup squad, well, it should be as variety, absolutely. I totally agree. Natarajan should be selected because in form, he is quite incredible, actually. It's quite incredible. Quite incredible. Let's look at that one. No, I would agree with that. Natarajan, what's the latest of Natarajan? Is he fit or is he not fit? That's my question. I don't know what his fitness status is. Whether he's fit enough or not, it's the question I've got. All right, guys. I'm going to finish at 3 hours. So we've got 2:57. We've got 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes to ask me questions. Go for it. 2.5 minutes, guys. And those that are going to my Instagram and my Twitter handle, to my YouTube channel, you're there now. Subscribe if you haven't hit the subscribe button. Notifications for such. This is the 179th. Next live will be 180. 180 in 6 months. It's averaging 30 a month. It's averaging basically one a day. It's quite happy with that. Got 2 minutes, guys, and I'm going. So if you've got Magesh Gajendran, Magesh Gajendran, I think Natarajan will be. Swaraj Chawan, thank you for your questions. Albi Juju, Garrett Banker's been around for a while. You got any more questions, guys? Because I've got 1.5 minutes to go before I finish. So it's your choice. There's a great membership video on there right now, which is new. Very enjoyable indeed. Well worth seeing. Absolutely well worth seeing. All right. No more questions, looks like to me. So we're going down to the last minute. Thank you again. Eyes on Cricket merchandise will be there soon. You can get it now. If you want to go to my Instagram, tell me. I'll send it to you. There we go. There. there as well. You got the books, you got the cups, you got everything going on. Thank you for your time. We're going to finish up now, and we'll see each other tomorrow, probably a bit earlier. England versus Pakistan, Australia versus West Indies. Talk more about India versus Sri Lanka as well. Hopefully we'll have some information as to the delay. Can we talk about IPL money? I mean, the money that they're earning, the crores. Yeah, we can talk about that. Make sure you remind me and tell me the next one about that, and I'll make sure I'll put it down, okay? For sure. All right, guys. We might call it quits there. Yeah, that's just about right. So that's it. All right, guys. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate all of what you talked about today. There's some great questions. We'll see each other again after you view, like, and share. Love the dedication. Even with less viewers, you keep doing what you like. Okay, no problems. This is Norman Koshnik signing from Eyes on Cricket with Norman Koshnik. All the best, guys. Ciao.